Two compatriots.
We'll give them a minute or two. I sent a
They should
text.
be here.
Yeah, I sent a text. Everybody.
I guess because I showed up, they didn't want to.
Here in Hawaii.
They said, who's the new guy?
Look at this. Where did this picture come from Donna Hughes?
Isn't that gorgeous? So,
Did you ever see the photos that she takes?
I have seen a few.
Are you on the Facebook Stormstown Neighbors page?
My wife
Facebook?
does.
She posts the most amazing pictures. They're so gorgeous. That's beautiful, Golden Eagle.
I asked her, she posted that in the Stormstown Neighbors.
Oh.
And I asked her if she would print that so we could start decorating the walls here with local art.
That'd be awesome.
And
Do it up.
she signed it and brought it to the township, and we just need to hang it
I
up
love
now.
it.
I thought that was really appropriate.
Love it.
Very regal.
I almost thought this was at 7. I was going for a walk and with one of my friends. I'm like, oh crap, it's at 6. I gotta get going. Lovely.
Let your cat back out yet?
So I had my cat for 3 weeks and he took off again. Back over to the Gray farm.
I asked Sam the other day.
Just the strangest thing.
Well, he likes it there. And Sam left on like, well, it's her cat. Well, he missed him for a few days.
Oh, he's a great cat. I miss him, but he doesn't stay with us. I don't know what it is. He is, when he's with me, routine every day. Every day. Stays right around the house, hangs out, eats, hangs out outside with us. Every day is a routine. Then all of a sudden, he's just up and gone. No, like he doesn't wander one day here and there. No, just all of a sudden, some switch flips in his head and he's gone.
You didn't feed him right, the good stuff.
Oh, listen, you don't know. No cat, if they came to my house, would ever want to leave, which is what's so frustrating. I'm like, why is this cat leaving me?
You don't have enough other cats to play with.
She had a
I have 4 cats.
tracker on that cat. He come in over the hill to Sam's. He stayed there.
Yeah, everybody get your readers.
Gotta suck the wet out.
we don't really need the computers anyway.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bring that
I'll
up.
look it up just to have.
And we don't have any residents yet. Normally
Didn't
we
have any
had.
last year either.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
What's the guy who was always?
That's how we knocked it out in one session.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the only ones on
On Zoom.
yeah.
While we're waiting before we get started, I attended the Upper Halfmoon Valley Water Company annual meeting last night. It's my first time ever
Yeah, I've never been to one.
going to one, but it was on Zoom, so I'm like, oh, I'll join in there
Oh,
and
yeah,
see what's
sure.
up. I was actually kind of curious about the water
The
incident
water
that
boil
just
thing,
happened.
yeah.
And so I know about that, but one of the things I told them is that they said that they are looking for ways to improve their communication to their members. And I know they said that we posted on the site about the boil advisory. And I said, if you want any help communicating out, just call the office. I said, we would be happy to do it. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. So, don't know if they will, but I just offered it out there to them.
Yeah, I think the only reason we ended up putting that on the website for us was,
I'm in the right spot, yeah.
Ben called and talked to Amy.
Oh,
Didn't
nice.
And I was like, we
follow
should put
up
something up there.
Well, yeah, I know. And because it's all about public safety, even though they're private, if we can help get the word out to people
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
things, then yeah, why not? Okay, that was it. They had their auditors go over their audit report. I was like, oh, this is fun. We just did this not too long ago.
And we'll be doing it again soon.
Yeah, and they approved their budget, so it was like, regular business meeting, relatively boring. Hi, Patty. Hello.
Hello. Hi. I love it.
Yay, full board here in person. Yay. Are you guys ready?
Oh, we got books?
We do have books, yes.
Cool.
And you're gonna guide us through?
Yeah, if
Okay.
you wanna open the meeting and.
Okay, you guys ready? All right. I'd like to call this October 14th. What is today? 14th meeting, our first budget meeting of the year for 2021 to order, and I will turn it over to Denise to guide us through our process.
Wonderful, thank you.
Before I do that, I do want to mention, because we have a new manager, new process, 3 of us have been through this a couple times now, so this will be new for all of us, having a new information to look at and new guidance through this. So it may take us a little bit to get a flow, just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yes, and I want your feedback as to my process versus what you may be used to. It might just be different, and change is good sometimes, change is difficult, so we'll find that middle ground.
Sure.
I actually want to start by just saying that we received notification late today that CNET has a possible COVID exposure, so we had to change the format, kind of, the hybrid meetings that we were having, because they're short-staffed due to this COVID exposure. The Zoom meeting, we checked the link. The only person that had signed up was Bob. I contacted Bob and said, can you please come in person so we can do live YouTube? And that way, if anybody wants to show up or do anything, they can comment live on YouTube and provide public input, because we are also limited to 13.4 people in our room now.
Yes.
And if the public were to come, we would have to turn them away if we received more than 13.4 people.
Okay.
And that was the option. So hopefully the tests come back negative for CNET, and next meeting we can continue with our hybrid.
Awesome.
I will say
Hopefully
that.
nobody in this room has it.
Well, I attended a CNET meeting the other day, but it was via Zoom.
Well, there you
So,
go. You're okay.
And,
Okay.
yeah, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay, so my goal this evening is, there's a lot of information. I've given you packets, which are the working sheets of what you're going to see up on the screen behind us. And I want to kind of start with a general overview of picture of where we are. And then my goal tonight is to go through the general fund expenses and revenues, and hopefully one other item, and then we can move to the next meeting or see how long we go. I'd like to cut us off around 8.
Yes. that would be
After about
great.
2 hours of budget talk, I think we are all kind of shut down.
Yes.
Why, you don't want to do an all-nighter?
I would prefer not to, but I wanted to start with this screenshot here, which you can see. This kind of gives you a current overview of our accounts. and where we stand. Our current balances as of the end of September, and this is our reconciled balances within our accounts, is all in all about 1.4 million. I do want to take note that that is without the real estate, because this real estate account that we have, that's not our money. That goes, we're in and out. So the reconciliation happened before Brett wrote a check out. So that's kind of shows a larger balance, and that's not money that we can actually play with.
I don't understand what you mean by we're in and out though. Where does that money end up going after we have our hands on it?
So Brett writes a check for
Is
the-
the real estate tax collector, we get the funds for the county, the school district, and us.
Gotcha.
And then I have to even write a check back to us. It's a separate.
Okay,
Oh.
I gotcha. Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't realize there were so many steps involved.
So that account's there just to show you that we house that account,
Yeah.
but it's not really funds that we
They're
can,
ours, yeah.
play with. So that's why your total down here shows without real estate. Kind of going up, the liquid fuels, that's money that is special and it's allocated just for state highway. So that we can't really move that around. That's kind of already in position. The open space future acquisitions account, and up here, this open space preservation account, that's money that is a special tax levy that we cannot play with either, as far as what's already in those accounts that's dedicated to the open space. The equipment capital reserve, as you'll see a little bit later, even though that's 50,000, we have a larger debt obligation than what that is. Payroll is just, we transfer from the general fund and use that to
Sure.
pay our payroll. It's just kind of a cleaner account that way. So I wouldn't really consider much with that. This BMO is our credit card. And I believe you used to be transferring money from your general fund, about 10,000 twice a year is what we kind of gathered, and we haven't transferred since I've been here. So we've kind of taken a control of that credit card, and you've seen that when you've done the checks. You've noticed that you have a BMO packet now, and that BMO packet is our credit card and what we pay out of that. The Park and Rec, that account, you'll see later, a much larger debt obligation than what's in there. This small flows is something we'll deal with
Still need to get rid of that.
at
right?
some point, yes. And then what the point is kind of going up. This general checking is our basic
Operating.
working account, our operating account. So with that, I wanted to let you know that I'm going to kind of hop into some other funds. We need about $81,000 a year from our general fund to pay some debt obligations. Right now, we need about $33,000 for the next 10 years to pay the park obligation that we have. That's about $438,000. We'll go into that account a little later. I've allocated about $18,000 for the next 10 years of our state highways, so that the state highway pays a portion of our road projects, and then we need to pay some out of our general fund. I've looked at about $18,000, finding that happy medium that maybe we can use some grant money or see if there's some offset there. And then capital equipment, we need $30,000 for the next 10 years. That's to pay off some of our obligations until 2032. No, I think we still have 4 years on that.
That was for the recent truck.
That's the truck purchase, yes. And then the idea of, buying some equipment that we own and replacing some of the items that we need. So that comes to about $81,000 a year. So I just want to show you that from our general fund alone, just to plan for some of the debt that we've taken on, this is some of the items we need. And this does not come up with anything for our capital building plan.
Right.
So that doesn't take into account any funds going back for capital building. So we're going to start with that in mind with our revenues. Now I have given you a chart that has 2017, 18, 19, and 20, just so you can see kind of the historical portion of this. I'm going to hide 2017 and 18 while we look at it up on the screen, mostly because that puts a nice screenshot in from the last 2 years, the draft budget, and then 3-year projection. Originally, I wanted to do 10-year projections, but COVID
Yeah.
kind of made it impossible. So even with the projections, I would say that's all up in the air. But to start, I just wanted you to see, there we go, we'll start with real estate. So our real estate current and year-to-date, we're around somewhere in the $200,000 range here, $250,000 maybe at max. But this is based off of the 2020 real estate value of over $76 million and a 2.98 mils tax at the 90% collection rate. And that accounts for about the discount period as well. So the majority of our residents pay within the discount period. So what we did is take off, when you look at we just kind of took out 90% collection rate. So that accounts for the discount and as well as people who are just delinquent on their tax. For the delinquent taxes, it's been averaging about $5,000 for the collection. For the real estate transfer, we dropped this down. It was kind of high this year, and I think that's because a lot of people refinanced. So there was a lot of real estate transactions changing hands this year. May drop next year. I think most people did their refinances already. The big one to look at here is the earned income tax. So that's dropped a lot. And the reason being, of course, is this is where people who have been furloughed or laid off, what we did is we took the average out of 2017, 18, and 19 and reduced it by 15% was the original projection. Then as things continue to go south for job projections, we reduced it by an additional 10%. And that's because there's been continual layoffs and we're hitting that second wave now and the job market's kind of unsecure. So that's really where we hit a big drop. Then moving on, the LST stays pretty stagnant, about $1,100.
LST, remind me.
Local services tax.
Thank you.
That's usually if you get paid biweekly, it's like $2 out of every pay. And
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
The cable franchise kept it around 36,000 and actually dropped it because I believe people are slowly starting to cut services in an effort to maintain their budgets and their own bills. Dog licenses kind of stays the same, and the court magistrate fines, anything that goes through the state police that's directly through us, that's the fees that we get back from the court magistrate. Interest earnings, you're going to notice as we get down to the general money market. In the past, all the interest earnings was put into one line item, so it looks like it's dropped a considerable amount, which it has. However, each account, as we go through each fund, I've separated that out this year. So every account would have its own interest rate rather than plugging it all into the general fund. It goes into each account.
Gotcha.
So there'll be an interest line item for each one. That gigantic small flows one there that might get some money. The meeting room rental also I've dropped, and that's just because of the restrictions that we have and how things have been going. The PERTA reimbursements, pretty much the same. The municipal pension state aid, this is kind of the history on this is you budget the item of which you received for the last year because there's no telling how that's going to play out. And the Marcellus shale fee, kind of the same thing. It's all just dependent on activities and formulas. So you kind of do your best. I kept revenues estimated low and expenses high, just as a general practice. So we can play with these numbers, but I just wanted to point out that I'm trying to keep things in a low revenue estimate. The game commission reimbursement, we get that through our game lands. The static IP through code. You'll see engineer review. There's income at this line item at the 01-36132. This is due to the new fee schedule and how there'll be some reimbursements. So there's an expected increase there. Over here in 2020, you'll notice that there is a $7,000 year-to-date item, and that is escrows for subdivisions that we've collected at this point. So that will have an out at some point. And then you'll see the subdivision plan review has a larger item, and that's again because of the fee schedule changes that you've made, as well as the zoning permits. So we're expecting some greater income in those line items. Not expecting much in the line items changes for county real estate collection, school real estate collection, or real estate tax certification. Kind of at a stagnant place there. The sale of recyclables, I added that this year. And that is batteries from Riff Raff Days. We actually,
Really?
yes, we sell them and make money.
I
Wait a
didn't realize
second.
we were taking batteries.
I didn't either, because I have a box of batteries at home.
Right.
We make money off your batteries, so
Yeah, you gotta hold on to it.
keep them until next
I
year.
will.
Car batteries and that too,
Yes.
or, yeah?
Car batteries,
Really?
not like little,
Oh,
plug
that's
into
what I
your,
was thinking.
not plug into your mouse batteries.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm talking
Yeah,
Big batteries.
like
Batteries.
big batteries from my lawn tractor and from my
Wow,
car.
I didn't
yeah,
know
we
that.
sell them and make money for, so
That's awesome.
we've
Yeah, you
added
know that,
them.
I'll have to hang on
We
to
might
them
have
for
to
next
market
year.
that next time.
Drop them off next year.
Yeah, we make money off it, so
Cool.
it's fantastic. It's a nice little boost there. The pavilion rental fees, we had a really high amount budgeted. Again, this is kind of a free-for-all because we'll have ability to have larger crowds outside, but I
Right.
don't know how many people are going to be
So,
doing any type of activity. And then, of course, nothing expected in refunds or donations. Always happy to get both, but don't plan on it. And then streetlight income is along 550 here. There's a couple of properties, and that's pretty much an in and out. That's
How do we get income from streetlights?
on, if you have a streetlight, there's a little tax line item on your bill, and you pay for the streetlight that you benefit from. So you won't have it, but some of these properties along 550 here
It's
have
just
that.
Stormstown that has streetlights, based on
I've never
front
heard of that.
footage.
Yeah, it's not every property within the township, just those that benefit from the
It's
street.
money in, money out.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it's always been.
Yeah, because we're paying the electric bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Denise, is the field rental for $1,000, is that this field, Auto both?
It's going to be both. So we wanted to take a look, we had a discussion with Little League and wanted to be more responsible about the fees and how we handle their structure. Because when you look at that fee schedule that we approved, we kind of looked at it and said, let's get something in place moving forward. But that fee schedule right now, when you have that field rental, it doesn't make sense because I believe you can do a tournament and it's like 500. These are not the perfect numbers. Or you can do a 2-day event and it's 600. So why not just do the tournament? It's not
Lining up.
logical as far as where that stands. So we had a discussion with Little League and we'd like to change that again for the new year and have a better agreement in place that kind of makes more sense as to why. I mean, you're gonna pay the lower fee anyway, but it would be both.
So that would incorporate Little League and State College football
Yes,
in that income?
yes.
Okay.
Denise, question. Earned income tax, okay, for year-to-date 2020, you get $388,269, whatever it is. How does that compare with 2019 at this same time? Or is it so messed up you can't figure it out?
We have a chart. We have a chart. Let me pull it up.
Because that was one of my concerns earlier this year when COVID-19 hit, is that our EIT would drop. The real estate taxes, it's all escrowed. The banks are gonna pay no matter what, and they'll torture the people later, but
Yep. Dave, every meeting, we update this chart.
But it's about almost 150,000 less than the total last year.
yeah, but,
But,
you know,
yeah, I see what you mean.
the number matters, what
Yeah.
we're doing projection-wise, where we're at.
So this gives you an update of our month and year, the net EIT, the net general, and the net open space. And then you can kind of see this beautiful chart.
Okay,
And there's the EITs, it's pretty consistent here, but you can see there's a period where it's down. This also has to do with collection change. But we're pretty consistent as the same as we were in, where we, like our high point here in July of 2020 and July of 19 are pretty much the same. You're not seeing much difference between that. What we anticipate is the first quarter and second quarter of next year seeing that change.
A decrease.
Yes,
I just wondered where you got because you have a greatly reduced figure.
yes.
I mean, I think you've done a great job on this, because it looks like you're cautious, and I appreciate that. But I just wondered how you derived your
Well, she-
projected 2021 earned income figure, if you had something you were tying into, if there was something the other municipal managers were all saying, hey, look, we gotta, revenues are down 10%, or, where did it come from?
There was a DCED presentation, and they said they expect EIT to be down 25% for 2021 for most PA municipalities.
Statewide.
Yeah. So that's why originally I had a 15% reduction, and then after that, I reduced it by 10 more, just to be on the safe side, with the understanding that there are probably going to be more layoffs or more people losing their jobs or furloughs, and then,
So that basically
Next year.
matches up to the 25%.
yeah.
Okay, so you have a 25% reduction in what you actually think would have come in had the world kept spinning normally.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just wondered.
Any questions on the revenue side? So that is expected revenues, and I rounded out at the end here. I don't want to deal with cents.
No, please.
Um,
And I'm assuming your 1, 2, 3, 4,
so those are,
5s are notes.
I don't have a notes compiling sheet, but what I did was anytime there's a note, like if you see up at the,
Yes.
anytime there's a note, if you have a question about it, I figured these were the things that
That's
needed.
perfect.
So you can say it 4, can you talk
Yes.
to me about 4? and-
Exactly, yep. And
Kinda
you've
go-
highlighted, I'm assuming what you've said is what's in those notes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
perfect.
again, the battery sales from Riff Raff.
Yep, perfect.
Here, the 2100, if anybody questions, it's county pays $2 a parcel. It assumes this many parcels, this many collections. So there's
Excellent.
justification without this is enough information to digest as
Yes,
is.
it is. And I appreciate that, because what I like to see is, I can look through every single line item, but which things are significantly different that need our attention. So that's perfect. Okay?
So just as a note, before we hit, this is really great, before we hit expenses, because that's going to take a lot longer.
Yes.
If we want to play with the mill rate, there is a calculator here that will update everything. So right now, if we change this to say 5, it will update all our projections in, so we can play with
Lovely.
that at any point.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the expenses, which will be your next fold out in your books. Again, I've given you 2017, 18, 19, and 20 to look at. I'm actually going to start at the bottom of this. And before I hide everything, I just want to show you this net income
Okay.
from the past years and what you're kind of looking at. So after going through and doing an analysis of the DCED reports and everything within QuickBooks, you can see there's been some deficits.
Starting.
Before 2017.
2016, 2015.
2016, I would say, is when there's been a good amount of
We've been deficit spending for,
some time,
okay.
okay? So what was presented to you for 2020 was a balanced budget. And where we're going right now is we're actually doing all right. The staff has been phenomenal about cutting expenses. And I mean phenomenal. We went through and looked at everything, and every opportunity we have been cutting an expense wherever possible. And it is not possible to do it without the group effort. So that should be noted, because it has been amazing. All right, so going back up. We're gonna go to the beginning of this, and I'm going to hide 17 and 18 just because I can get everything on a screen. Look at that, that's wonderful. Okay, and we'll start with the salary of the supervisors. So that's your whopping $18.75 that you get for your whole year of service. And the max, of course, is 5. The dues and subscriptions. So this entire line item here at 420. All the dues and subscriptions are about $20,000, which is about $4,000 less than last year. We've cut some of them. Like we no longer get the Center Daily Times delivered.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, and we've done what we can to kind of mitigate some of those. Some of them we do need to keep because some of them are certifications for staff. So if you can kind of go through those. I have notes for each one as to how things are planned. You should know that the Spring Creek contribution is done by resolution. It is not a required subscription or due.
That's correct. Okay.
Okay. Moving on, the Center Region COG dues.
Before you jump here too fast,
Go for it.
PSATS, that's the magazine, that's our ability to call PSATS if we need help, right?
Yes, that's PSATs, that's our Power Pass, so we can do any type of webinars. That's also your ability as supervisors to use that service.
Right, and how about PML?
Pennsylvania Municipal League, similar, right?
Yep, so Pennsylvania Municipal League provides some legal guidance. Our discount, we have a discount right now, and we made an agreement for 5 years. That discount expires in 2021. Now, whether or not they keep giving us that rate, we won't complain. But we have to budget for the higher rate.
Okay. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
This isn't where we're trying to pull apart the line items, right? Or we're just going through them at the moment and.
I mean, if you wanna pull apart, pull apart. Yeah, because, I mean, basically, once we go through this.
Yeah, I guess we wouldn't want
Yeah.
to go line by line
No.
twice.
So if you have questions about anything.
The Spring Creek contribution, like you just mentioned, it's not mandatory. What exactly is that? Where does it go? Is that to the Spring Creek watershed? Okay. I would not, I mean, as much as I like clean water, obviously, but, you know, we are in a big budget crunch, so I wouldn't be against, I don't know, halving that or striking it, or, I mean, at least we should have a debate about it. Because we have a long way to go. You know, what are we,
$348,000.
exactly, and now, $1,000 seems like a drop in the bucket, but so far we haven't cut anything, so.
Well, I'd like to maybe bring a little different approach to it. I'd like to just get down through the whole thing, see what's there,
Sure.
and then,
Star anything of interest maybe along the way.
yeah, just make check,
Yeah.
I've just been making check marks, but
Okay.
Yeah, that works for me too.
And
Like
I
I said,
think-
I wasn't sure how we were going about this, so.
I think when we get down to the bottom, then we're gonna have to say, what are our sacred cows? I mean, I already called Denise today. I apologize, Denise, but I was hanging by my fingers on the side of a mountain on the rocks.
Okay,
and
you
it was
sounded
just
distressed.
not pleasant,
What are you
but,
doing making phone calls, hanging by the
well,
side?
it came in from, I called her earlier when I was down on the road. But anyways, I thought that we would probably go down through the budget and then see what our shortfall is, and then see what we can do to slim the budget down. If we know what we gotta attack, if we can, and I told Denise, I said, obviously, we have to pay our debts.
Yep,
I mean, those are
Okay, number
first and
one.
foremost. The next thing that comes down that list is I want the employees' retirement taken care of, even though I don't agree with it, but it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, because we made that obligation. And then we're gonna get down to, what else do we need to make the township operate?
Yeah.
Okay, and as far as I'm concerned, once you get past that, and I'm not into axing any of the employees here are great. But I think at some point, the frills have to go, and we're gonna have to sit there and go through that and say, we just can't afford to do this. Maybe we don't pave next year, maybe we can't participate in something we wanna do. I don't wanna just hack out $1,000 from Spring Creek arbitrarily,
Right.
because it's not that we don't need to put the money aside, and maybe they do get the axe, but,
Let's prioritize.
as a board here,
Yeah.
something that they're doing may be more important to us this year than other things that are on this list.
Sure.
And we may want to give them the 1,000 or 500 or 800 or 2,000 or whatever, and, just depending on what's there, and then something else would get cut, so.
And I think one of the reasons that we had that strategy regroup to kind of go over what our priorities are looking like, that also helps inform and keeps us at what are our priorities that we need to focus on. So I think we might want to bring that up at some point too. So just kind of, I agree, David, just star things as we go, and then we can come back to talk about collective items.
I figure we're gonna have questions about line
Yeah.
items, and.
Oh, yeah.
Because
And, yeah,
everybody's not gonna know what the codes are, although I have to say, Denise, I really appreciate you using the actual municipal codes for things as opposed to the previous manager who just made numbers up out of nowhere. So, which made it really tough to go through the budget.
Yeah.
I would like to make this easier yet, but as the first time I had to provide, like, I'm gonna
that's
hide some
great.
line items next year.
Sure.
Because some of
It's a
this
lot,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
We
it's a
can
lot.
lump stuff together,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
at some
plan.
point, but at least the supervisors can see, where the details are.
Okay, so we all kind of agree as we're going along, just for yourself, Star,
Yeah.
if you have
Yep.
questions,
Just
great,
check.
ask questions,
Yeah,
but
ask
let's.
questions.
Cool, good, all right.
So that brings us to the 01, 400, 421 Central Region COG dues. This is each office, I guess, is what we
Or
call them.
department,
There you go, each
yeah.
department and the budgeted amount for 2021. You will notice a large increase in the local planning services, but that is due to the fact that we did not have a planner for months out of the previous year. So it looks like it's a giant jump, but when you look at the budget for 2019 versus 2021, it's actually lower.
Is that because
We lost a planner.
we lost a planner, nothing was getting done, and then
Right.
we had to go back and do it all?
Yep.
Okay, because I was kind of like, that doesn't compute, you
But
don't
they
have a
didn't-
person, so it costs you more.
They didn't
But
send
that
our
makes
money
sense.
back, though.
No. No.
All right, well, we'll think about that.
Now, all these COG dues are contractual at this point, aren't they?
Yes, so that each individual department has its own funding formula.
Yeah.
And that's all dependent upon which municipalities participate. And then those are fun little,
Yeah,
like
I'm familiar
algorithms.
with them.
If we would like to withdraw from any program, you must provide a year notice. So as of today, these are contractual numbers
Yes.
for us, we must pay. If you do not want something in a column for 2022, the
Yeah.
COG would need to know by December 31st of this year.
Yes.
And then the first time it wouldn't be an obligation for the township would be 2022.
Gotcha.
So if we make it to January 1st, then it's a whole nother year.
Right.
Actually, it'll be like almost 2 then.
Well, without causing too much of a fuss on it, because it's gonna come up later. This year, COG didn't lay anybody off. They didn't, they really did not make an effort to save anything. Everybody's working from home. I have a real hard time with the amount of money we paid this year and the services we're getting for this year. Now, and then I see a big increase from this year to next year, and I see previously, I know we didn't have a planner. We had spent a high of, looks like 57,900 is what we budgeted in 19, but it was actually less. But actual in 18 was, well, I'll go back to 17, 55,279. And then, we're budgeting 48,886, but, we're looking at totals of $94,000 for the council of governments. And I don't know, my car insurance company gave me a rebate because of this COVID-19. And there's no subdivisions going on. We had 2, maybe all year.
We have more than that at the moment. There's one up,
We did House,
there's
which
House.
was the land development, Wilson, Seifert, and I'm missing one.
Wilson didn't come here yet.
Okay. So it's the three. I swear there's four.
Yeah, but they're not trotter farms, they're not,
No,
you
that's
know,
not.
Chinook
There's
Drive. They're
there's
like,
one up on,
yeah, it's
the
a subdivision,
circle.
how much planning do I need for that? Okay, well, this lot's gonna be 2 lots.
Yeah, there's one by the park
I mean,
that's
there's
gonna
a
be like
big
5 lots, I
difference.
think, but.
The amount of time that I would expect the planner to spend on a Trotter Farms versus a Seaford subdivision. Now, I know the Seaford thing got out of proportion and finally it got fixed and got it, passed, but, it's not something I expect to hire a professional to sit down there and spend 3 weeks on, from that, but, all right, well, I'll get off the subject for now, but I'm just kicking that out there.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming
Well,
from.
Dave, I gotta agree with you on some of these numbers here within the COG, what we're budgeting, because that's what the COG tells us we need to budget, basically.
Right, and we,
Some of those are high, but we do have the
well,
problem
we have
of
a
the
contract with them,
contract,
however,
so.
it'd be like if we said, well, we're gonna provide snow plowing for the COG, and then it doesn't snow. I mean, are they supposed to pay us for plowing their parking lot even though they didn't do it? I mean, is that right? Is it fair?
No, but if you were fool enough to make a contract that said you
Well,
did, then you're stuck.
My
So-
point exactly, so,
Well, and in talking about things that we could pull out of individually, like I don't think we can pull out of administration.
No.
Like there's some things here that are part of the package.
Yeah.
And then I think the planning services though is probably something that we could look
I
at.
think it's good, but I think maybe we're paying for more planning services than we actually need.
It's possible. And I think, I can't remember if it was last year, and I don't know if you guys remember, we reduced the percentage that we paid for the planning services because we agreed that we didn't feel we were using
Yeah.
them. So we did
That was
reduce
either last
that.
year or the year
Yeah,
before, I
we're
kinda
not
remember
Ferguson
that.
Township where you
Right.
need to have 2
No.
Exactly.
And I don't even know if they need the number that they have, but.
Yeah. So that's definitely something we can take a look at.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that, the planner does a lot of our planning commission meetings and looks through our ordinances and SODO, so there's a lot of pieces of that. We pay 33% of the planner's salary, and the remainder is between the other municipalities that use him.
Yeah. So what we would have to figure out is what services do we need? Because we'd have to pay for it somehow,
I'm
whether
o-
it's paying,
well,
you know what I mean?
I'm okay with paying fees, but I just think that, I think we all got hosed in 2020. And not just from the COG, I mean, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like I said, the insurance company sent me a check back, I didn't ask for it.
Right.
So, it's like, if you're gonna run these organizations, if you don't have anything to do because nothing's going on, then adjustments have to be made.
Yeah.
And too often as governmental bodies, we just say, well, the money's coming in anyways, no big deal, we raise taxes, whatever. And I look at that number that Denise had with the earned income, and I've talked to Denise a little bit, we've got some financial problems, and we've gotta solve them. And I am extremely reluctant to raise anybody's taxes, knowing that the earned income tax is down. If you reverse engineer that number, there's gonna be a lot of people out there hurting, and even if it's $100, it's $100 they don't have to do what they wanna do with it. And unemployment sucks, it's just not that much money.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we got some federal assistance, but is it gonna run into next year or whatever? And I know a couple seniors that live out here, and they have told me that they are really, really concerned. Because the school district's gonna raise taxes every year, and that's the problem, you get the double whammy out here. Our school district just raises taxes at the drop of a hat. And, it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason, it's just because.
Yeah.
And not that the township has to make up for the school district, but I just don't wanna, on a year like this year especially, I mean, and I told Denise, I'd be okay with some kind of certain kind of taxes I think we could justify because of expenses for the
Yes.
situation, but just to raise taxes for the general fund, I got a big problem with that, and I really wanna do what we can to save the taxpayers as much as we can. Now, if next year, economy kicks back in gear and life's fine, hey, it's a different world,
Yeah.
but this year has really been miserable.
I gotta tell you,
All
Dave,
right.
I don't ever wanna raise taxes. So, we
Well-
haven't done it since I've been here, so
Well, maybe we can make this
let's
work.
make this work as best we can.
All right,
Okay.
so we're gonna keep going and go down to the supervisors line items, 400.46. So I reduced your educational and professional development down to $500 each.
That
And
is for,
If-
be it this thing in Harrisburg or,
what, if you wanna
Whatever.
do that, it can be, if you wanna skip the PSATS convention and you wanna do a webinar that, you know, is held through PSATS, that maybe is a $25 webinar per member, that's fine. But I cut it down to 500 each.
Page 1 of 7.
okay. Well, I'm just trying to see if we have a regular thing that we go to or don't go
I thought
to.
we changed.
I know everybody likes to go to PSATs, but if it's next year and money's tight, I don't have to go anywhere, so.
And that's-
And I don't plan on going to PSATs anyways, but sometimes I'm down there for other reasons, because of other professional things that I have.
Yeah, I've gone to PSATs 2 years in a row, and in a normal circumstance, I would like to go again, but if, you know, we're hurting for cash, no, we don't have to attend that.
And then I cut your mileage way back to an anticipated 50
Saving all
miles.
kind of money.
For the record, I've never submitted my mileage.
Well, and,
I've never submitted mileage.
and that's why, I mean, that's why I kind of just kept
Yeah.
it low. It
Yeah.
doesn't look
Okay,
like that's.
so-
Well, especially, we're
Enough to
doing all
make it
Zoom
worth
meetings
it.
now, so nobody's really traveling
Exactly.
anywhere.
Then we have the CBICC contribution. This year was a $2,000 contribution. I put a reduction to 1,000.
What is that again?
It's a contribution to the CBICC.
Which
That's
is
definitely
the
one that we
business-
could.
What is the CBICC is my question.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, the,
Chamber of
Business
Industry.
issue for
Okay.
Center County.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. well,
any kind of extras that we put out there, we could always put in the bucket of, do we have priorities that we wanna
Yeah,
Exactly.
get to? Okay.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yep.
Next thing come to is the salary of the manager.
Gotta cut that.
There's no, it should be noted that for salary and payroll, there's no raises for this year.
Oh, okay.
Everybody has been very grateful to have a job, and their staff, I believe, everybody has a full understanding that we're going into next year hurting, and so they're prepared to not have a raise.
We appreciate
Yes.
staff's view that way.
Very much
And I
so.
know when you work for a company and you don't get a raise, it stinks.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're in dire straits here and we need to get out of this problem, so we will remember next year when things get back to normal, hopefully.
So not much else to go through that. Manager mileage, I reduced it down to 500. I haven't submitted any mileage. Again, that's something we can play with.
Placeholder, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The professional development, I kept at 3,500. We can play with that as well. The manager hosting breakfast, got out of that this year.
What is
Uh,
that?
The managers all have a meeting and
Oh,
we
You
would
mean you get
host-
reimbursed for that?
We would meet once a month.
I never got it reimbursed.
Shame on you, Dave.
I know, you got a better deal.
I managed to skip that this year because
wow.
I was at the end of that,
Yeah.
so we didn't
Okay.
have to deal with that.
I have a question on the manager's, meeting and travel expenses. Are you member ICMA, or I assume that you are, or you're not? or-
Yes, I joined APML,
APMM.
APMM, and the PML, Pennsylvania Municipally, comes with that. And then the majority of that cost right now is the Leadership Center County that I did this
lovely,
year, that I'm
lovely.
doing this year.
I didn't know if you were planning on going this year or not going, or.
I have no intention to go to any conferences. If I can do Zoom meetings instead, that saves on travel, that saves on all that. I
Well,
don't,
that's something I guess we can talk about if you're willing to forego.
absolutely.
I know they sent Susan to numerous things all over the place, but it is expensive.
Yeah, and if I go, and my theory is if I travel, it's on me. But that's just how I operate, so.
Okay.
I was just gonna share, I don't know if anybody knows that you're doing the Leadership Center County, or if you've even heard of Leadership Center County. But I actually recommended Denise doing it as well, because it's a local leadership group, and it's a networking opportunity as well. So I thought for a new manager coming in, knowing different people, knowing different businesses. There's a lot of people, there's a class, and there's folks from all over the business community, academic community, so I recommend it because I think it's a really good opportunity.
And I had no intention of doing it because of the cost, but in a COVID world, I realized I had to find different ways to start meeting people and business owners.
Just kind of establish it and
Yeah.
to establish yourself in
Yes.
our
So-
community.
After
so.
a while, you won't be able to walk downtown and people will say, hey, I got a problem with my zoning permit.
Listen, it's already started.
I imagine.
At the grocery store.
Yep.
Are you in it now?
Yes, so
How many are in this class because of the,
How many are in the class?
21.
oh, okay.
That's
21
good.
of us.
That's
And
good.
yeah, we just had a leadership retreat last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. Time's just flying by. I think it was last Friday. And we did it at Curlin.
Frislin.
Thank you.
Chryslin, Camp Chryslin.
Beautiful,
Yes, it
beautiful
is.
place.
Yes,
Absolutely
yes.
gorgeous. We did an all-day retreat there, a good 12
Fabulous.
hours. And
Nice.
yeah, it was wonderful. It was a really,
Good.
really great time.
Good.
So moving on to the audit by the CPA, that is 40231. That is the contract extension with Meyer Dussel. And then moving forward to 2022, the question is new auditor. So
Yeah, little increase.
that,
maybe.
yeah, I
Yep.
figured that's probably, if, we go out for RFP for that, that's gonna be an increased cost, I'm sure. Tax service forms under the tax collector. So Brett, this is the envelopes and the RBA services. I'm gonna let Brett talk a little bit about his election.
Next year is my last year, as my term runs out after December of 2021. So next year, I just need envelopes, which technically the township has to pay regardless, at least half with the county, whether it's in-house or it isn't. And RBA is currently the tax system. That's how we process. It kind of processes like a supermarket. You beep the, you quick beep
scan.
the bills through. So that's really all I need for taxes. That's more on the accounting side of it. And then you'll see in 2022, the 1,000 is once a term, I'm required to continue education. I try and knock that out the first year I can. If 2022 we haven't rebounded, that can push as far down my term as need be.
No problem there.
Yep, good.
And of course, if anybody takes over his position, all that goes away.
Okay.
Legal
Well,
ads.
wouldn't someone with a new position, or let's say
Need to
somebody
do
gets
that.
elected tax collector besides you?
It goes back outhouse. The township won't have anything to do with it anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we
That's how
actually,
it used to be.
we
Okay.
provide a service. So if you get elected,
Okay, so this is back to that issue I asked about before with the money coming in, the money coming out, or,
no.
okay.
Someone else would just write you a check. That's
Gotcha.
what it would.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't realize that honestly, I didn't realize the tax collector was an elected position. And I thought that
Yeah,
this
but
was
nobody
just
wants
something
it.
that right. But I just thought that this was something that,
Yeah, I was congratulated
as
the year I won.
the
As
local
congratulations
government.
on
no,
the
this
position.
is
No one
something
wanted,
that Brett does
so.
above and beyond his regular duties.
Right. Okay.
well, thank you, Brent, very much
Yeah.
for doing that.
Not a problem.
Legal ads. So I'm increasing it to about 3,000 for general business, and then keeping it pretty much the same. The reason being is I'd rather have legal advertising is important in COVID world. I feel like we're going to have some more requirements for Zooms or whatever it might be, that we might have to put some meetings
More public
online.
meetings.
Yeah, so I increased it. I would be happy if that decreases.
If we don't use it,
If
it's
we
still
don't use it,
there,
yeah.
so.
Right. And that's something that we can definitely take a look at. Staff bonds. So the budgeted amount in previous years was pretty much the same, because you keep the same bonds on the same people. It increased, for Brett and I this year because,
We're under bonded.
yes, exactly. We were under bonded
Right.
and then we moved the bonds up to the $1 million
Million.
bonds.
That's-
So
That's a fixed expense in my book,
It is.
so.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about it.
the notary bond, you'll see is every 4 years for Amy. That's something that she does above and beyond her position as well. She maintains her notary for the township. So we pay her bond, and that would be due in 2022.
Cool.
So the legal fees for the solicitor, you're gonna see an increase here. There is no increase in the solicitor's fees. What I'm looking at here is an increase in hours, because I'd like to start having Jeff in attendance for a lot of these meetings. And we pay him for that, of course. A lot of questions come up that I'd like to have him present. And I also wanted to start looking at our zoning and saldo and doing revisions, and that requires a larger chunk of solicitor review. So that's that increase there. The decrease is the litigation and regional matters. You'll see saldo plans has an increase, but that will kick back on our revenue side whenever we do any billing for saldo reviews. That's why you have that new revenue item.
I'm gonna jump in here, because I always do. I just wanna say too, I mean, we need to update some ordinances, and I don't disagree. But if this year the money's tight, this is not the time to have a solicitor reviewing stuff, because nothing's gonna go on. There's not gonna, you know, unless somebody walks in here with the Toll Brothers plan, you know, I think we got enough regulation that the bigger stuff's fairly tight. I mean, we might not like how it's being done, but at this point, just knowing how the sausage is made and seeing it over the years for, you know, going through the planning commission, the planning staff and the staff review, you know, when you do a new ordinance, even if we started now, I really don't feel that we'd have enough planning commission revisions to, you know, suggestions to really crank into this thing. You know, we could adopt a few things that we see that are problems and just gotta keep the budget tight this year and then see what happens. I mean, like I said, I'm nervous about what's gonna happen, you know, depending on who you talk to, what's gonna happen with the election, what's gonna happen in society, what's gonna happen with jobs. You know, the world could go crazy next week or next month, or, you know, it may
Because
just
it
continue the
hasn't
same way.
already?
What's that?
Because it hasn't already?
Well, the world's always
More.
been crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't wanna, not that I don't wanna do the saldo stuff, I mean, you know, I'd like to get Rob Brooks in here to talk about tightening up some wetland regulations that we got. I see some holes in some things that probably need to be dealt with. And I think it might be a big concern for us in the future, depending on, I won't name the names, but these things come down the pike. But if I'm worried about, you know, making sure our debts are paid and some of those other things, and not knowing what 2021 is gonna look like, I'm a little reluctant to start passing subdivision regulations. We might not see another subdivision for 10 years.
So
if
let's
things go
check this
south.
one off as something to definitely look at. I mean, looking at some of the numbers here, it's either gonna be general business or zoning matters that we might be able to reduce or cut something.
Yes, and that general business, so my note is if we have Jeff at each meeting. So this is the high possibility, right?
Gotcha.
So this is his hourly rate times 2 meetings a month, times 12 months, times 2 hours as an average meeting time. I don't think we'll need him all that much.
Right.
So we
I
could-
think we're burning up his evening. You know, I could see maybe once a month if we really felt we needed him.
And
Or, you know, even if it was just up to the manager to say, I think you ought to be here tonight because, you know, I'm okay with that.
we've been doing a lot to keep that number low.
Well, I know that, and I also know that, I mean, I go to other municipalities with the attorneys there all the time, and it's okay, but most of the time, the attorney doesn't have that much to do. So number one, you've ruined somebody's, you know, football game watching in the evening, but, you know, and the attorney's there, and it's like, why don't we just pay them, you know, $300 to come over here and sit and do nothing? If we have something that we want to target, we can always call them the next morning. You know, we got 2 meetings a month, so it's not like we're inaccessible.
Yep.
And like I said, if there's an emergency, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but if you see you know, somebody's calling in and they're hassling the staff or whatever about something, you think it's, you know, a good idea to have the attorney there for Thursday night's meeting, I'm okay with you calling the attorney and doing that. I would expect the manager to do that, you know, because it's part of your job to anticipate amongst everything else that you have to do. If you see a problem, but that's how I feel about it, so rather than having the attorney just show up at the meeting, like I said, if it was a normal year, I would be less concerned with it, but.
Even if it's not a normal year, because I think we had a reduction, like either last year, a year ago, something like that, because we paid for him to sit there, and I remember asking, you know, Susan one time, does he need to be here? Because we're, you know, it's $300 or whatever, so.
It's actually $742.50.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's
Did
quite a
you did
bit.
the calculation?
It's quite a bit, so.
That's a lot.
That's if he attended every meeting.
Yeah, it's much better than I get.
At that
from the
rate.
supervisor.
Yeah, we're walking out of here with, you know, our $20
So
in our
let's
pocket
mark
or
that
something
one
like
down, and maybe we can have a little bit more discussion
Yeah.
about how
We could
reduce
compress that
Yeah.
into a larger fund
Yeah.
maybe, so that if something came up and we needed more legal stuff, we could draw out of it. If it was less, or if it's all saldo, we could pull out of that, but rather than using such a big number and spacing all the thing out, just to try to make it a little tighter.
And we've been asking Jeff to change the way he provides us billing, so that everything's broken down into buckets as far as what item we might be discussing. So if we're discussing a
good.
road project, liquid fuels, if we're discussing open space, it goes to that. If we're discussing, you can see there's a line item for COVID-19.
Right.
So, you know, we're asking him to really break down his bills so that
I'm
it's
not
coming out of
picking,
that.
I think you're doing a great job, I'm just saying, I just don't wanna get a bunch of legal fees this year if we don't need to.
Yeah.
Also, we don't have to spend it all.
Right,
That's
but if
true,
it's on
too.
the budget, here's a budget item, then that's something that we can't use
Right.
for filling potholes on Smith Road or whatever.
So moving on to codification. There's a reduction here for 2021 of 1,200 for regional ordinances. And that's just because, as you can see, there hasn't been some stuff. I just want to make sure that if something comes up the way down the pike, because it looks like there will be, we have some money in a fund for that.
Are we doing some regional ordinances? You think something's coming along, or is this just center region shoving stuff down our throats, so to speak?
I think it's just a safe line item to keep for $1,200.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna
Okay.
put it on the concern burner.
The updates is our annual E-code maintenance. And then zoning is the anticipation that we would codify the zoning. We don't have our zoning codified now. We have the saldo done, but not the zoning. So the idea was, if we change it, why codify what we have now if we're gonna change it? And then the expense for it is quite high,
Yeah.
Why does that cost so much?
because they're
They
pretty much the
charge.
only game in town.
They charge a lot.
And so I guess I would ask this question, do we need to codify next year?
If we, yes, so I
Yes.
need to put this,
Okay.
if we're not gonna, whether we update or not,
Right.
we need to do the codification for the zoning.
Okay.
And I think
Well-
it came back at 6,000
For the current,
for the one that,
Gotcha.
yes.
We
6,000.
have our saldo codified, which just means it's in a nice bound book with the holes that are misaligned, so you can't put new pages in it unless you belong to the club. The zoning ordinance, it's not great, but zoning really is not the end-all, be-all. Subdivision land development, in my opinion, is way, way more important to get a quality development. Zoning is just our idea of what a quality development ought to be. And I gotta disagree. I think we could survive another year without codifying the saldo, or I mean the zoning
Zoning.
ordinance.
that was gonna be my question, what's the consequence if we don't?
It's the same as it is now.
It can technically go, well, what we found is when you search our E-code, it has the old zoning in it because it's not codified. So you have to click the new laws, and some of the cipher issue was the fact that it wasn't codified and we were referencing,
Old information.
yeah, and so it became
We were referencing, or they were referencing?
we both were.
Oh,
Because also some of the numbers changed. Yeah, E-code noticed that we had gaps and fixed it for us.
yep.
For what was for I can't remember, but there's a lot of cleanup that needs to occur.
So
Oh, I don't
basically-
disagree, because the zoning ordinance has been around since, I think, 76, and it
So
was,
basically, paying this amount will reduce other expenses
Expenses in
for
the-
having the inaccuracy of the information.
That's the idea.
Gotcha.
like, whether it happens this year or next year, you know.
Listen, I'm gonna pose a question on the zoning. 2017 budget 1,500, spent nothing. Or no, excuse me. Yeah, that's in zoning. 2018, $3,585 budgeted, spent 513. 2019, 5,000 budgeted, spent 0. 5,000 budgeted, spent $3,709, or it's $798. My question is, why do we keep budgeting for $5,000 when we're not? Well, it varies, but we don't really seem to be spending it. Then all of a sudden, 2020, it jumps to $37.98 from 0 the previous year, $500 the
It's
previous year.
because of the codification. You didn't codify anything in those other
And
years.
Bob, zoning actually. is
Okay,
used
so we were
loosely
just
here.
pushing it
Could have
out.
been anything you
Right.
codified
Okay, so
would go under that.
we would be looking at potentially having to codify it also in 22, 23, and 24? Or those are just in there,
That's
Placeholder.
is in a,
more,
we're pushing this out?
yeah, that's more just, we should probably look at the fact that we don't really know. That's more of a
Yeah,
general
sure.
placeholder.
But for the hypothetically speaking, if we were to codify it, spend this $8,000 and just get it done this year, 22, 23, and 24 should not need $6,000.
I guess it
budgeted each
depends
year.
on any changes. It's all
Or-
dependent on changes.
Or any new ordinances
Or new
that,
ordinances.
so
Keep in
it's,
a
mind,
new
zoning
zoning.
should really read municipal ordinances.
that's right.
It just came up as zoning and no one ever changed it. in
Okay.
the-
And
in
I
the
didn't wanna
system.
change this title, like I said, first year budget
No, and that's fine.
presentation, we're gonna,
Yeah, I just didn't understand why there was
Put it
such an
in parentheses so we
inconsistency
can
here through the
search for it
years.
next
It
year.
just
It's not a
didn't-
regular
it looked odd,
expense.
yeah.
so, yeah. we
It's an
can-
as-needed expense, right? So
Yes.
that's why. We budget for it, but then sometimes you don't need it if you don't have changes and updates.
Oh, it's a tiny little line, okay. That, we can change that in QuickBooks too, so that it becomes a
It
line
looks
item,
like
okay.
municipal
Yeah,
ordinances.
but yeah, it's municipal ordinances, and really what I would like to do is just make that codification, and that's it, right? Cause does it matter if it's,
No.
that should just be one line item. Okay, so clerk wages, again, and administrative assistant wages. So clerk wages, again, no increase whatsoever. Staff is aware of that. The increase in administrative assistant wages is a request to have Brett go from part-time to full-time for 2021. And you can see that's a minor change.
Okay.
The mileage, that is round trip for Amy to go to the PAMA conference in Gettysburg. And then the same for the hotel and professional development and parking. So that is her PAMA conference.
Is that for you or for Amy?
That's for
Amy.
Amy.
Okay.
And that's something that we would like to keep,
Yes.
especially because she has certifications, and that's definitely something that would
No problem.
Yep. All
be
good.
important. Office supplies, we dropped down to a very small amount. We are massive recyclers, and
Yay.
we all bring stuff in from our homes, so yay. Postage. So postage is the postage rental machine from Pitney Bowes, which is $130.08 a quarter, and then a estimated 2 mailings to every parcel owner for the next year. So we had discussions in our
Yep.
strategic plan about increasing the communication with residents and meeting them where they're at, right? Whether that's a survey that says, how are we doing, and give us something, or what that might be is like, there's a huge change coming in the township. Whatever that might be, that includes 2 mailings to every resident.
Okay.
The general operating supplies is our fire extinguisher maintenance and annual inspection.
It's all right.
Fixed costs.
Yep.
Yeah, and then water, listen, our road crew deserves it.
That's fine.
Copiers.
Oh, that's drinking water.
yes.
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine. Oh, they
that's-
have the
water
the water
coolers.
cooler.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
that's
fine.
After doing riffraff days, I was so grateful for that.
Yep.
The copiers and the copier lease. The lease ends in 2022. There was nothing budgeted for copies itself in 2020, so there's an addition there. That's why there's a small increase and a breakdown.
What do you
those
think of that machine?
I can't wait for that lease to be up.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That's a lot of money for.
yeah, that's a lot of money for.
One that doesn't fax.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, for
and-
$1,000, you can get a really sweet machine, and we can own it, and then when
for
we're tired of it, we just-
$400, you can get a
Well-
multi-function,
Yeah, I've got
color
one, but I
laser
figure we need
printer.
heavy duty
Yeah, but
just
they have to
for,
do big copies and.
yeah.
Well, anything, so any copies with the fee schedule that you have,
Yeah.
now we're charging back for any copies that we have to have for
Good.
somebody else and color copies. Now, you guys don't get charged for these, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I'll give
God, I
you
forgot my
$5.
checkbook.
I was thinking about writing and asking you guys for invoices. But the copier lease was signed prior to my arrival, and so I negotiated what I could on the price of copies. That's that whole .007 I saved us, but hey, we managed to get something, and
How long's the lease?
we're not until 2022.
Ugh.
We're stuck in that lease.
We're stuck with that now.
Eh. Oh well.
But yes,
Okay.
moving forward, that is definitely something I would like to get out of.
Okay, I agree with you.
Let's move.
Okay, dog licenses, that's kind of an in and out. That's just, again, a service we provide. Then court hearing cost, we really haven't had anything, but I'm keeping that just a little bit in there.
Yeah.
And then the zoning
Now,
office,
The court hearing costs, okay, then you got zoning officer,
so,
what's, the salary, or what,
yes, we have a contract with Patton Township
right?
for a zoning officer. And while we don't know what the actual rate will be until Patton passes their township, it's a 3% increase from our budget for this year.
You pay him by the hour, right?
We do. And now with the new fee schedule, we have the ability to
Charge back.
charge back.
Lovely. Okay.
What, I guess what I'm gonna say is, you know, I sort of work in the subdivision land development business, and there ain't nothing coming down the pike. So I don't see,
That,
But
A
we only
lot of
pay for what
hours.
we use,
We
so-
only pay for what we use.
well,
so-
right,
yeah.
but here again, we're tying up numbers on, you know, cause when it comes down to, you know, how much we spend on other things, I want everything turned up zeros.
yes, I will
So-
tell you that I've changed some of the practices. So when we receive any type of plan now, we have weekly meetings. So on Tuesdays, we get together and have a weekly meeting to discuss our zoning or saldo. Where are the problems that we see? What are the changes we want to make? And we go over what plans have come in. And it's kind of a roundtable, which I think has been very helpful to get everybody's input on.
see his car out there, so I.
Oh,
know he's over meeting,
He's-
and it's a good thing. I think it should have been done a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yep, we meet with the planner, with the zoning officer. Amy comes in and it's a great discussion about what's going on and how do we,
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we're gonna get that much time in it. So if it's an area that we can skim a little
Scrape
bit
a little
off
bit.
of, maybe we can take a look at that.
I'm looking at the past years, you know, maybe down to 8,000, maybe a
Yeah.
couple grand off,
Yeah.
possibly.
okay, so computer hardware and software, this is the 40722. This is a giant mess and I'll explain why. We have the County CARES Act, block grant. We received 33,000.
Yes.
That, yes. So this is hard to budget for without knowing what is going to be covered. So if you look at like 2022, there is Amy's new computer at 1,800. If you see new computers
Yeah,
line.
that's the least of it.
Oh, hey, start slow. That I have as a request from State College Borough, like we're trying to put that under the grant. And if the county approves it, that's all gonna go away because that'll be part of our grant application.
Okay.
So this is kind of a disaster right now until we get approval from the county.
So you think that we're gonna have some better numbers next month before we adopt this budget?
Yeah, we'll have, because the grant's due at the end of the month.
Oh, good, good.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then we'll be able to make an informed
So
decision.
So the grant could cover all of that under computer expenses?
Not all.
Not all, and that's where I wanna show you there's some differences.
Okay.
So, if there's a possibility that we will have a new board member, if that happens, a new Surface can be purchased, and Brett's new computer that was $1,800 approved in this year's budget, we're moving to 2021 because we didn't buy it. So that might go away. What may increase, decrease are these updates, software updates at the 24. So that's a projection on hours that we would need State College Borough to provide IT services, as well as we updated the Office 365, so all board members will have the regular license rather than the email only license.
Oh, okay.
And that's, Patty, that was because your discussion about you get emailed things from COG that are spreadsheets or worksheets, and you need to be able to access them. So while I was under the impression I would just send you everything in PDFs, it's not gonna be practical for any of the commissions or boards that you're on through the
They've
COG.
been doing a pretty good job sending pretty much everything in PDF.
Okay,
I don't know.
we can, I mean, I can find out if we can, at least for this year, and then next year when we do our license, if we need to drop down, we can look at that. This is kind of a disaster zone right now until we get,
A little bit more clarity.
yeah.
Okay.
But we definitely need to do some upgrades, because we have quite a bit going on in our IT structure
Yeah.
and how it's lacking.
And again, we said some of those costs are, get those costs done so that we can be more efficient at other things.
Yes.
That might help some of the other costs.
The engineering, there's no increase in the engineering rates for 2021. I did increase the overall amount. When we have any plans coming in or anything, we would like to start having our engineer in on these roundtables that we're having, so that we're all together getting the input versus separate communicate, that it loses something in translation. Our telephone, we're just averaging out some things. It's about $190 a month, and we have includes cable TV, possibly due to the triple play enrollment. And these public utilities, as you go down, as we're looking through this, we put notes and averaged everything out. I am currently in discussions with Comcast about how to increase our telephone coverage and internet. I got a quote back. I need to have a discussion with Comcast. It would be $100 more a month for 2020, which isn't budgeted in here.
Wait, what are you doing?
That's the idea of the fact that we would have phones that are VoIP phones.
Oh, the voice over IPs. Yeah.
Yep, and then internet's higher speed internet service, so all these
That would be good,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be about a $1,200 increase. That is not in this budget because we haven't, I just got the quote about that.
Okay. It's nice to see the decrease in propane here.
Yes,
If you guys
that's,
remember that discussion, I think, was that last year, this year? I don't
that was
remember.
this year, you purchased a
Yeah,
tank.
Yes,
and-
lovely,
Then we went ahead and signed a 2-year propane contract.
fabulous.
Um,
Okay.
The exterminator, we anticipate a small increase in 2022 because there hasn't been an increase. The rent at Halfmoon Valley Road, the lease is up in 2022.
Okay.
So the 2021 is the rent that's already been agreed to, and the 2022 is the rent that's been agreed to. 2023 and 2024 is projected freely if we sign another contract.
Okay.
Fire, So I want to take note here that the fire protection for Port Matilda Fire Company is 0.95 mils of assessed real estate value, according to an agreement we have signed from January of 2016. This renews annually unless a party decides to renegotiate. So if you drop down, the Fire Protection Warriors Mark Fire Protection Company,
Mm-hmm. The 20,000?
yes, where is my note on what that amount is? Oh, I know where it is, hold on.
It's 2/3 and 1/3.
It's 0.255 mils of assessed real estate value. And that fire protection contract ends in 2024, where we will need to establish a new agreement.
Okay.
Now, looking at that, you should know that those two obligations is 0.85 mils of your general fund, 2.98, that goes towards fire protection. So your actual real estate mills that you're getting in your general fund is 2.13, because we're subtracting out those fire protection obligations. Now, this year we asked for requests. What equipment do you need? What training? Because there's a trend that's going to be happening where we're losing volunteers. We're
Yes.
losing. This is a big problem for the entire state.
Yes, just a little anecdote. I was in the public safety meeting just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and most of the discussion was circulating around alphas going paid.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
And that's where we see fire protection going as a whole. We're going to need paid drivers, and the volunteer portion, that pool is going away.
Shrinking.
We got our state legislature to thank for that one.
Well, we had the fire company come in and talk about the amount of training and
Because
equipment.
they
and
mandated so much more training
Yes.
that people don't want to put the time into
It's
it.
a lot.
It's a lot to ask. It is definitely a lot to ask. So what we're looking at here is that 47,000 is our agreement. The line items below that, the fire gear, hose replacement, hose drying rack, and air packs, those are 34% of the amount that is actually needed to buy those
Oh,
items.
wow.
The reason we have 34% is with the COG, we pay 34% of the workman's comp. That is our municipality's portion of the fire protection. So when the request came in for these items, we took the amount and took out 34%, which is our responsibility according to the, our pie chart. And so that will only pay for 34%.
Wow. Okay.
The 4 and 5, now Warriors Mark did not get back to me with any
Specific request?
specific requests, so
Okay.
there's nothing in there for that.
They probably will before the end of the year. I just talked to one of the firemen, so.
Well, we need it before the end of the month.
Yeah. It would be good.
Yeah, okay.
The Port Matilda Fire Company, this other, is the truck payment that we've agreed to.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Okay, so that I've kind of put as its own little separate item there.
Is that 7,000, that
That's
one?
the 7,194.24. That's number 60. If you look at the 18,000, that is the in and out for fire relief. So that will stay no matter what.
Okay.
And we're just estimating that out, but that did.
Okay, so the things basically that we could play with are the 8,500, 1,600, 657, 11,009.
Those are the items that, yes, you can.
Okay.
Later, we will come to a discussion about how you might be able to take about 100,000 of this and pull it out of your general fund.
Okay.
When you look at the next line items for 411.35, you've got, this is the workers' comp, and that's that 34%
Okay.
that we're paying. The Warriors Mark is based off of an estimated population of 3,000 people, and it's 25%, so that's 750. We multiply that by $3.59 a person, and that gets us the estimated premium. So that's that fund calculation in there. So they're kind of not really we can't really play much with those. If you look at 412 EMS service, you should note that this is a donation. There is no formula. There is no agreement.
Oh. That's the Port Matilda EMS, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that increased a lot from 2019 to 2020.
Yep.
And so I just kept the 2020 budget amount, but there's no obligation for that.
No, there isn't, but they're also really strapped.
Yes.
And not only that, I don't ever wanna have to explain that the ambulance company didn't come because
Because we cut their
Yes.
budget, exactly.
Yeah.
So
There are
I think that
options
one's
you have
kinda
for that,
off
too.
limits.
Okay. Yeah, that's why we increased it last year.
Yeah.
We increased fire, we added
Yes.
extra for fire and EMS.
I think it was 12% or something.
Yeah, I think we did 12%. And that's, priority number one is public safety,
Yes.
so,
I mean, I agree, but there shouldn't be any increases right now.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But we could have something
There is
of how
a,
we can,
the second class township code does provide that you can do a separate tax levy for fire
we had
and a
one.
separate tax levy for ambulance.
oh,
They're not the same when you do it for
No.
fire.
We had a fire tax at one time.
In 2006, you eliminated it.
That's
interesting.
because people got testy and they wanted it all.
What do you mean
What
they
do you
wanted
mean?
it all?
One fire company wanted all the money from the fire tax.
Oh,
And
sorry.
so the board eliminated the fire tax and that way they couldn't control
Well,
or
that's
sit there
a-
and demand.
Great way to
Shoot
resolve the
yourself in
issue.
the foot, yeah.
Okay.
But I think, depending on the strength of the board's will to operate, which I think this board has pretty good will, if we did have a fire tax, it would be clear that the Township Board of Supervisors control how the money's divvied up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that we're gonna have the same issue that we had in 2006, and I can take you back to 1994, 93. There were problems, and I don't necessarily see that problem continuing on. It seems that the relationship is way better than it
Yes.
was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes. I've heard only stories, but I have a relationship with those guys being on there.
Well, you're working with them.
Yeah,
so.
and they have told me stories in the past of how there was animosity between Port Matilda and Warriors Mark Fire Companies.
There's a
but
lot
that
of
seemed to
animosity between
all
Port
get-
Matilda and Halfmoon Township.
Yeah, there was that too, but
So-
see, everything seemed to be worked out.
It does
now,
get
so-
better eventually, it
Yeah.
seems to.
Get new personalities involved, people make up.
Okay.
Yes, we're not holding grudges here.
No.
The PC professional development dropped, and that's because the intent is to drop to one planning commission meeting a year. That was just, or month, sorry, a
Yeah, I was
year.
just saying,
Hey,
you're
another
way
year,
behind.
all right.
That's
I
awesome.
know you're being progressive.
I want to be on that committee.
But that's so that we also have specific timelines in place for subdivision and land development, so that it becomes clear there's time for review, there's a plan in
Nice.
place for that.
Okay.
The road crew, the wages, again, have not changed. What you will see in here, if you look at 2020 real quick, it just should be noted that there was a juxtaposition in the 731.40 for the overtime for the road crew. That was it should have been 713. There was a juxtaposition there, so there's some differences. But you'll see in the other is the potential to hire a full-time road crew starting July, another member. So if you're familiar, right now we have a roadmaster who's full-time, we have a public safety director who is full-time, and then we have a part-time person and a seasonal person. The idea is to start getting somebody in who can possibly start training in some roadmaster ideas. This is, knowledge that will get transferred through the years, and maybe be a little bit more computer savvy. We all
It's a little bit of succession planning.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Trouble is, we have a gap of $300,000 on the year. And I feel like adding a person to the staff might not be the best time. I mean, I understand they have work to do, and having another person, a set of hands around is a good idea, and the succession idea, but, you know, we're trying to find places to cut, and
I think we ought to pump up the swapping between municipalities for, you know, we borrow their guys, they borrow ours.
yeah, I brought that up at one of the Bald Eagle COG meetings, and they kind of thought it was worth talking about. They don't have many guys either, though. You know,
No,
it's
but
the municipality
But
on
if
the
we
other
all
side of the
pulled
mountain.
together and got 5 people
Yeah.
in there instead of 3 or 2.
They made it seem more like they would be open to the idea of equipment. But, you know, like, I think Worth Township has 2 people, I think.
I
or
think
something like
sometimes
that. It's-
they don't feel that it's necessary to have flaggers on the job, but
Yeah. Oh, I agree. You
And-
should always
you
have a
know,
flagger.
And that's one of the reasons why we want to put somebody in, is because currently we don't have a safe system.
I know we're short people.
We are, we're very short, and I know, Dave, you had expressed the idea of having some things move in-house, and if we start doing that, we don't have the crew to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that I don't want to hire guys. I love the idea of creating a job or two, but, you know, just thinking from a money standpoint, you know, and just a numbers standpoint, I wonder if maybe that's not the best time to do that.
Well,
Well, I think we should leave it in, because I think we're gonna have to look at other ways.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
getting
put a
money.
check mark next to it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, we may decide that we're not doing certain things next year just because the budget will not allow it.
Yeah.
And that might change how we hire or don't hire.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
seasonal wage hasn't changed, general operating supplies, at 4/30/24 hasn't changed. You will see road maintenance, the 4/30/25 repairs and maintenance supplies. We have a lot of aging equipment, so it's starting to take its toll on us. It's nickel and diming us, so that's some of those things. The petro for the trucks hasn't changed.
Well, I see we're at 2678, and I guess that's probably because we didn't have to plow any snow to any extent this year.
That's gonna go up later, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
gonna go up a little later. The CDL testing,
You gotta do it.
gotta
Yep.
keep it there.
Yep.
The professional development, I have it about 350. And the safety director training, at 200.
Gotta
That's
do it.
Yep, all good.
just some professional development
Yep.
there. The uniforms allowance, this is with the assumption that there would be 3 full-time and 1 part-time. It's 300 per employee times 3.5 employees.
That's jeans and a shirt, cleaned and dry pressed.
So I'd like to, there's no specific outline or policy on what they can purchase at this point.
Oh.
They're fantastic about reflective gear or what have
Yeah,
you,
sure,
but
they don't want to get run over.
yeah, I'd like to have some specific items that we can make
That'd be
that,
good.
but that's a general idea that it's 300 per employee. And the reason we have the 0.5 in there is because there's nothing currently for our part-time.
Okay.
The guys have been nice enough to split it up. Capital purchases, the 2,800 is 4 tires for the Ford 550. If you've gone and looked at the equipment, it's practically blown out.
Oh my
It's-
God.
It's scary to
get some
see how bad those tires are.
Why do we not get them now?
Yeah, get them.
Because we're already over on that budget. But
Okay.
it's something that might have to take some
Get it.
priority because
Yeah.
they're very worn out
Yeah.
to the point where
I-
they've cracked and they're.
Well,
I
that's a
gotta
safety
say, if it's a truck that we need for snow plowing,
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't
I didn't
care.
Right, get it, done.
I
But
want
come
it
on,
done.
Bald
If-
tires are so much
Well, they're
better
bad enough when
on
it
a nice,
rains,
hot,
much less
dry
to push
day.
snow.
Okay, so there we go. Is that enough
That-
yelling at you to buy tires?
Yes. The other is a beacon for the John Deere tractor, one of those woo-woo lights.
nice.
That's the official
Strobe.
term. And then any unplanned minor purchases, like a mower blade, or we had a carburetor we had to purchase. The 438 for road repairs, crack sealing, it went up, and that is to rent the crack sealer for 2 weeks. we rented it, we typically rent for 1 week, and we completely could have done another week worth of crack sealing. Dead tree removal, we've dropped to 3,500.
We contract that out, correct?
We do, and this year the bids came, we had a couple of people contacted, and we think we can do it for about 3,500 next year. The 6,000 for general maintenance includes 1,500 for 2 RC Davison Road.
What?
It,
If you're not familiar, which I know Dave is, Davison Road is a township road, but it has the stone to it.
Yeah.
Every other year, Scott has been using stone too, and next year happens to be that
One of
year.
those
They did
years.
nothing with it this
Oh,
year.
2RC, okay.
Yeah.
It all ran together.
Yep, I thought maybe.
All right, okay.
I can't see my note. Wow, is it far down there? The next one is robotics. So we're looking to do the second phase, where we have the evaluation of the roads, the 1 through 5. So it's the annual subscription, and then looking into moving into that second maintenance.
Which line is that? I'm sorry.
That is, it's under Smith Road.
Oh, okay.
Again,
And then the stormwater.
had to
Okay.
pick and choose.
Okay.
All right, so you got 2,700 in
Yeah.
that
Yes.
category, okay.
Now, this 18,000, when we get to liquid fuels, that's the portion that would come out of the general fund for any of our projects.
Okay.
So that amount we can finagle if need be, but that's a pretty minimal amount. CATA bus services doesn't exist anymore. The park maintenance repairs, that's high, and that reasoning is because we now have a second park, and there's a manufactured, what's it called, manufactured wood fiber that is
Oh,
ADA compliant,
Yep.
and yeah, so we need to, that is expensive, by the way.
I'm sure it is.
So that is to put that in our parks and just have some general maintenance and repairs for both now. Park and rec supplies, this is just the movie night and Easter party. And then the 500 is a possible additional event. We had discussed that during the strategic plan about getting more community events.
Yep.
What do I have here? So it's number 76. Park, minor equipment and tools, number 45426. That 3,000 is because we didn't have anything budgeted for a long time, so that includes like a new trash can, painting some picnic tables, and just any other things if we need a new flag or
New umbrella.
whatever it might be.
Okay.
The other is for minor items like the chains for the swings. That could technically just be one line item. 45428, the park and rec supplies. Didn't we just do that? Am I, how
Yeah,
far?
you-
Yes,
you
I'm
went
sorry, I'm
That's all right.
skipping.
Nope, it's okay.
The ball field lights, that is 45436. That's about $20 a month we pay. The portable toilet rentals, that's 2 toilets for 12 months at $100 each. That's
Do
for-
we need them year-round, really?
I don't know. I haven't experienced winter here.
And
Well-
we had it one winter, right? Did we? Yeah. When did it
Yeah,
open?
pretty
Last
much
fall, right?
End of October through like end of March.
Yeah, we
is
could save a little bit
Probably
in your-
not,
We could save a little bit and
I mean,
Have
I
a
just
break.
don't see, my spouse coming down here saying, I really gotta go, I'm gonna go get in that thing.
Well, we
so.
have the ice skating rink here. So we do kind of,
that one, I'm thinking over at Autumn Meadow maybe.
Yeah,
and I just
Is it-
caution you, when you don't have a bathroom at a park.
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't know
Even
what's
when
gonna be
you
left
do,
behind.
That's right.
Yeah, and the
Something
savings of $600
is
is
not
kind of a drop in
that
the bucket.
great.
when you
All right,
don't
well,
think
Okay.
the amount
maybe
of
we can
bucket.
cut a better deal for wintertime rental.
Maybe there's less pumping. Less
Well-
Yeah,
travel.
there you go.
Okay.
It's all
Um,
frozen, you can't pump it.
Yeah.
For
Oops.
riffraff, we've kept that the same. And then trash collection, we have an anticipated increase of, just a small one, it's gonna be $105 times 12 months.
That's our trash, correct?
That's our trash, yes.
Right.
For the libraries, the donation, the Center County Library is $3,500. That's a donation that you determine as a board.
Okay.
And then the Schlow Library is part of the COG formula.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we're going to move into some of the employee costs. So the 483.30 is the employee contribution for retirement.
Okay.
Then the 483XX is what we anticipate with the change for new employees to go to a defined contribution plan. And we're gonna get more on that, but that's the estimate for right now.
Okay.
So liability insurances, the increase in that is our workers' comp is $5,123, and all other insurances are $11,324.
Denise, back up on the
Yes.
employer contribution retirement. Okay, didn't that go up because we're distressed or something crazy?
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. There's a
Okay.
plan
Well,
down
I'm
here a
just-
little bit further.
Just asking.
A little bit further, we're gonna get to that, because we are a distressed municipality. We're
Yes.
level 2 distressed
We
municipality.
shouldn't be distressed.
The HRA reimbursement increased because the anticipation of full-time for the treasurer,
Ah.
assistant treasurer, and then a second employee.
Okay.
For Public Works. The other meetings, 4946, I just threw everything into 3,000 for meetings.
Okay.
I don't care what kind of meeting it is, any special meeting, like a town hall,
Yep.
great.
Lovely.
The transfers to park, that is the 33,000 that, I'll show you that
That's
in
the
a little
debt
bit. That,
service.
Yeah.
that is, to pay off our debt.
It's fixed.
The transfers to equipment is 30,000, that's to pay off some debt. Streetlight expenses, again, that's that fund in and out essentially. Then we get to our payroll expenses. The health insurance will go up,
Ooh, yeah.
and that increases,
Jeez.
that's an estimated increase of 10% for current full-time employees, plus a possible new hire for Public Works. Brett has kindly offered that if full-time, he will be not taking any of the health insurance, so he's willing to
Well, I
sign
want
up.
to stop right there
What?
because if we offer full-time
You should.
and we offer health insurance to our full-time employees, do the employees have the right to opt out?
Yes,
Yeah, most people do.
yes,
And I currently get it through my wife's.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Okay,
Oh,
well, I don't want to
okay.
short
My offer.
you on something that you're entitled to just
And
because.
no, I'm grateful for that, but no, to help out, I would easily.
Have you checked it out and you're better off?
Yeah, I'm better off where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All
Okay,
right.
good for you.
Okay.
All right.
Look at us all over that one. We're
yeah, right? Whew, Mama bears.
benefits. Take the benefits.
The deferred compensation is the admin fee to PSATs. It's traditionally waived, but we can't guarantee it, so we kind of throw it in the budget and
Okay.
traditionally they waive it. For dental, this has the current employees with an estimated increase of 10, and then it's the idea that there might be a full-time employee in there.
And that, I'm assuming, goes along with the increases in all of these.
Yes.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
that's really what we look at there is the idea that Brett wouldn't be taking insurance, and we would have a new hire at July, so
Okay.
the second half of
Ah.
the year.
Gotcha.
Then that gets us to the
Okay.
487,198. Wait, is that my 2,000? Yes. Okay. So that is my line item, Dave, for a distressed municipality. That is the plan to put $2,000 into our defined benefit plan to help bring that funding back up. So that's for the next 5 years. And we are at 66% funded, and the idea is we need to get up to about 75 to get out of level 2 distressed municipality.
What would be 75, what would that number be for 75%?
I am not an actuary. That's gonna be a whole.
Well, here's the other thing, okay? Every time we go to do something, borrow a dime, if we have
It's
an
gonna be on our,
emergency,
yeah.
we've got like a credit rating of like 400 right now. So we're not gonna borrow anything. You know, we look bad, and we shouldn't look bad, because we
This
got
is-
plenty of money. We are a wealthy municipality. Not in terms of money, but in terms of revenue, we are wealthy. I should quote it, what is it, Ed Rendell said, you know, we don't have a spending problem, we got a revenue problem. Well, the actually opposite was true.
Are
So-
you suggesting we maybe just get the 10,000 in there to get us back
I-
out of that?
I think we ought to get ourselves out of trouble.
I'd be in favor of that.
Every year that we end up on the bad list
Mm-hmm.
gives an opportunity for somebody from the state to come up here and tell us how to run this place. And I don't, because they can do it.
Hmm.
And I don't want to see that happen. I don't think somebody from the Commonwealth is gonna come up here and actually give a rat's patoot about what happens in this township, other than to fill out their program, their actuarial program, and move on. So I think that needs to be a priority to get that straightened up.
I'd be in favor of that, especially if it puts us in a better position if we did need to
Did
go
need to
get
borrow,
money or
exactly.
borrow. To have that better rating would be
I think our
beneficial.
borrowing days are gonna be through for a while, but,
But just in case.
you know, to get that closed up, you know, we really need to put a priority on that. Find out what that magic number is, you know, maybe before we have our next meeting, and I hate to give you something else to do, because I know you got too much stuff to do, but I think that's an important number for this community
Yeah.
to get out of trouble with. And I would pay that before I would hire somebody else or
Yeah,
anything else.
I agree.
And Brett's not in that consideration. I
right,
mean,
for new hire. for
Any new hires.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool,
we
all
can
right.
take a look at that. So that pulls us to total expenses of about 1.1 million, and then our income at about 742, which leaves us with a $362,000 deficit.
Wow.
Now, I would like to, I think we have enough time that we can go quickly
Mm-hmm.
through the idea of a fire protection tax.
Okay.
We ran some numbers, and the idea that we kind of looked at was the possibility of asking for a 1.02 general fund tax increase. I'm sorry, 1.02 mils.
Is this on, or can we follow along?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
That's,
We got a
that's
cover
that.
sheet,
this
is
one?
that where you're
Okay.
going
Yep.
to now?
And then a 1.7 mil fire tax.
Before you run too deep into this, the current tax is on 250K assessed value home. What does that work out into real world numbers? Because the assessed value is not tied into reality.
So the assessed value is about half of what you would consider
Alright.
fair market value.
All right, so that's
So-
a $500,000 house.
That's a $500,000 home.
Wow.
All right, I'm just trying to get it in perspective in my mind to figure what, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Average out here with a $180,000 house.
So we're gonna go through this. So right now, we did we kind of grabbed a couple of properties, right? And the average is about say $250,000 assessed value home. We did an example with a home that was about roughly a $50,000 assessed value home, and went through and did the fire tax. That, like where taxes are right now, the overall difference in implementing a 1.7 fire mill, and then a 1.02 general mill would be for the about $50,000 assessed value home. The general fund amount that they'd need to pay additionally is about $50. And the amount that for fire tax would be $84 a year. So a total of about $134.
That's on the $500,000.
That's the 50,000, so that's on the.
So per
the-
$50,000.
The
that's
lower
how
end
much
of
you
the
would
house.
pay.
So in our real estate assessed values, that's about the lower end. And then we're gonna look at like the higher end. Our average is about this 250. So the majority of people in our township will have this be their effect. The lower end will only have about $134, $35, of which 50 is going to say you got a guaranteed for fire, which will take,
Yeah.
which you'll see this later. It will take about 100,000 out of our general fund, and the 1.02 will give us about a $79,000 increase in the general fund. So this gives you an idea, the current taxes and what you're looking at.
I'm sorry, Denise, could you say those two figures one more time? The estimated increase in dollars
So
for each one of those two increases if we were
Yes.
to do them?
the 1.02 general fund mill increase
Uh-huh.
would, at discount, provide $79,000, which, if you remember the summary, we need about 81.
Yep.
And the 1.7 fire tax will take out, now we'll go over what it will gain. We'll have a small balance. But it will take about 100,000, just under 100,000 out of your general fund. Because right now what you're doing is you're getting that 2.98 mils in, but really you're bringing in 2.13 because you're paying that out for fire. What this is doing is taking that out of the general fund and saying this is established just for fire.
Okay, so we wouldn't be necessarily talking about levying a brand-new tax
Yeah.
of 1.7, we're just talking about dividing up the current tax.
No, it's a new tax. It would be a new tax levy for fire. It is a special levy.
Okay.
Another couple $100 to the average household.
Yes, and this is what it's showing. So for a $250,000 assessed value home, there's no fire tax right now. This is the current taxes, and this is where it goes. And if you look, you'll see our general fund is 2.98 mils. Our open space is 2. The county general fund is 6.65 mils. The county debt service is 1.19, and the school district is 46.0875 mils.
They're out of control.
If you look, this chart right here shows you where this
taxes
little
go.
chunk right here is what the township gets. This is the school in the county.
Yeah, but they have such wonderful snow plowing and fire department, and education and whatever.
What we're looking for is a general fund mill of 4, a open space of 2, and a fire of 1.7. And this is what the chart looks like in comparison. I guess I can kind of squeeze both on this. Let me reduce. I know I'm making it more difficult to see, but
So
you
is this
can
like
see the green.
700 is this like $700 increase? Is that what
680.
Okay, thank you. So there's the number.
Okay,
680
$680
bucks a year.
And 425 of that is for the fire.
Yes.
I don't like the fact
Yes.
that the five-headed hydra is on there with reality. I mean, I understand the school district's gonna do what they wanna do. They've got the ability to tax, spend, have a party, burn your money if they want to light the furnaces in the basement of the elementary school. The rest of those governmental entities all have to live in reality. We are limited to the number of mills we can have. The county is limited to the number of mills they can have.
Yes, and we're nowhere near that.
Well, I know
It's
we're nowhere
13.
near it, but it doesn't mean we should be.
No, and
So-
and so the last tax raise was 0.96 mils in 2011, so it's been 10 years. And then again, you had eliminated your fire tax. That's actually in 2005.
Well, I think they just absorbed it into the general fund.
No, you had a specific fire. You had a
It was
special tax.
.45 mils or .49 mils or something at one time. I don't know what it ended up being, but that number sticks. That was the old fire tax. Whether they eliminated it or just added it back.
It's so there's a crazy chart I
I
have
think
somewhere.
they did a little bit of both.
Both.
What had actually happened is through pretty much starting in the mid-90s, we noticed, we went back and went with what was passed along to the county. And it jumped around a lot, anywhere from it'd be 0.3 one year to 2.3 the next year. It bounced around a lot.
You mean as far as the township millage goes?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it finally started to equal out. and then-
11.31 general fund millage for a long
Said
time.
about 100,000.
Then the county reassessed,
I think that's what she said.
because they were at their maximum taxing capacity. They won't say that, but that's what it was. So then they could start jacking the tax rates up again. And they're not totally out of control, but
All right, so let's talk about.
So I'm gonna
what-
run over to fire protection real
Yeah,
quick,
go
okay?
ahead.
So with that, here is the 1.7 mil suggestion for fire is actually, I'm sorry, this is what we expect will be, revenue in 2021, at 134. And then, of course, this will have its own special account, and we'll make it interest bearing. So we'll gain some interest. So our total available funds for 2021 expected would be 134. And from that, this would cover that 47 for Port Matilda Fire Company, plus their equipment requests
Okay.
at 34%. Then it drops down a little bit, but we can, those are finagling numbers. Plus the Warriors Mark Franklin Company, 0.255 mils. Any equipment, they don't give me equipment
Right.
requests. The truck payment, so we would take out $97,258 of money from the general fund. And then if you look at the projections, it's assuming a 1% increase in estimated real estate value every year. That's what that fund number is across the bottom. And then you can see we start building up some funds. Now, anytime somebody comes and says we need a new truck or we need new equipment or whatever it might be, then that gives us the opportunity to do that. If they need to hire a paid driver or paid firefighter, this gives us the opportunity to help fund that.
yeah, that won't even begin to cover that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is really, really just a very
Right.
small effort.
Right.
But it's a start.
So then down at the bottom in pink, is that if we did the 1.7?
Yes, so we can, fun with budgets,
Yes.
we can change this to, if you wanted to do 2,
Oh, and see what it looks like. Okay.
yes.
Did you do the draft budget with 0?
Yes.
Or
So, right now,
Yes.
this is an idea.
gotcha.
If we go to the expenses,
Uh-huh.
we could, and we want to implement this, we would take out in 411 fire protection. We would be able to take out, and I will show you this.
Okay.
Hold on, before we do anything,
Yeah.
let's save.
Make sure you.
Lessons learned. So we would be able to take out this 47. We would be able to take out this 85, the 1683, the 1657, the 11.9. We would be able to take out this 20,000 and this 7. That foreign fire relief has to stay.
Go to the. What's
So
the
we're going to
total?
the bottom now,
Yep. What do we got?
and now you're down to 264.
Almost 100,000.
Yeah, that 97.
Oh,
Yeah.
97.
That's
Oh,
what
yeah,
that
done.
is. So
Okay,
that
gotcha.
when you go back to fire protection, it would be this 97,258 that we'd
Okay.
be taking out. And that fire protection can only be used for fire protection.
Okay.
We're still $250,000 in the hole.
So then, when we go to revenues, with the 0.4, that increases our revenue to 814, and now you're down to 192.
Remind me now, the 0.4 was the
The
general.
1.02
Gotcha.
general fund.
Gotcha. Okay.
298 to 4.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, so you're going from those 2 items drop you from 362, 143 to 192, 175.
Okay.
Hey, Cindy.
And we're cutting all of Cindy's funding.
Well, turn it off.
Blackout.
Yeah.
So that saves you those two items, the 1.7 and the 1.02, gives us back 169,968.
Okay.
This is a lot of information, and
It
we
is.
haven't gone through any of the other funds. So this is where I suggest you
It's good to chew on.
take some time.
Sleep on it.
Yep, take some time, look at some of the other funds before we hit them up next time. Because we're gonna go over, we have a 100-year open space projection.
I don't care about that. I'll tell you why. Because
Save
we're
it for
in
next
trouble right now.
Right.
And 5 years down the road, the open space is still gonna be running. And I know that it's important to work that detail out, and I don't wanna kick the can down the road, but the house is already on fire. And so, I mean, that's not right now, the concern is, we've gotta get our credit rating back to where it needs to be, and we gotta get this balanced budget thing going. And I want a real balanced budget, not one of them congressional balanced budgets that borrows from the open space fund and everybody's social security and their retirement accounts.
Yep.
So we need to make this thing work so that we're not in
So Denise,
Trouble.
just as a recap, our current millage is,
Our current township millage is 4.98.
And it-
2.0 of that goes to the open space fund, it's a
Right.
special tax levy, and the other 2.98 goes into the general fund.
and even that 4.98, I remember looking at the tax rates when I first came into
They're
office,
low.
and that is one of the
Low.
lowest in the
Yes,
region.
and we have the highest per
Yes.
capita.
And we have
Yeah.
the highest per capita income in our
Yeah.
township.
Yes.
Yep.
So that would bring, so you're talking about adding
1.02 to the
02.
general fund, so it's a even point,
even 5.
4 mils. And then you'd have the
Okay, fine.
2 that you already have for open space, that
Right.
doesn't change.
And then 1.7.
And then the 1.7 for fire. So on that $250,000 assessed value home, you're currently paying $1,245 in taxes at the 4.98.
Mm-hmm.
Implementing the fire would be $425 dollars a year, and the general fund increase is $255 a year.
Okay.
At a home that's assessed value is $250,000, where its fair market is probably $500,000.
So that's.
And we're
roughly-
talking about raising taxes in a year when people are out of work. That's the biggest thing. If we were just cruising along and life was good, it'd be one thing. But, some people aren't even gonna feel this thing. Anybody that's sitting at home right now, I know somebody that's sitting at home collecting a paycheck, hadn't worked since way back when. They got nothing to worry about. Their job's not going anywhere, the company's big, everything's flowing. But there are people like myself that are self-employed, and there are people, I'm fortunate because for some reason, the world went crazy in the building industry as soon as, COVID-19 hit. I think everybody's sitting at home thinking, what can I do?
Yep.
But there's a lot of other people out there that they're sweating it. They're biting their fingernails right now. They're paying ridiculous amounts of rent for a store that they know they're gonna have to close. And I am, if the township's gonna do this to somebody, the township needs to suffer a little bit because of it, or somebody does. Because to dump this back on our citizens and then say, well, we're just gonna go on like,
Normal, yeah.
life is
yeah,
normal,
Yeah.
when it's not.
Well, yeah, but we do have to remember that, even if we were to do this proposed tax increase, which we are not, and I am not lobbying for it, just for the viewers, just to make that clear. That increase would only be 40% of our budget shortfall.
We still
So
gotta
we
draw
are still
down.
going to, we
We're
are
gonna do
going
other
to
stuff.
feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's a shared responsibility here.
And
I will say that with our, like, as Patty commented, we have the lowest tax rate in the region with the highest per capita income. And it's been nice to have that, but I feel like we've been kind of waiting too long.
Well, I will
or
tell
so
you
to
that
speak.
next door, they have no real estate tax, 0. and they've got $2 million in the bank. So,
Next door.
what's that?
The next township.
Warriors Mark. So what's wrong with us? And,
I can't speak for them.
well, I know, can't speak for them, but I know that we've gotten ourselves into trouble and we need to get ourselves out. And if I'm gonna raise taxes $100,000 on somebody, I wanna see $100,000 worth of cuts in there, at least.
Well, again, that's,
So,
we
well,
have to do
this
that
is-
to make our budget, so.
We're not making any decisions tonight.
Well,
This is
right.
time to talk and explore options, and then also go through the line items of our expenses.
Yes.
And so that's what we put our check marks by. So go home, analyze, look at some things, see what we can do, and
Ask
then
questions,
what we
yeah.
may also ask is, you know, some of those consequences of the unbalanced budget, and are there other options? So we might throw this back to you folks and say, okay, that's one way. Are there any other ways to get rid of that minus 300 and some $1,000? So,
Yes, please.
you don't have to answer that tonight,
No,
but
please
I'm just
take
saying,
it and
yeah.
look.
Yes.
I will offer that there was an expenditure of, and this is the park fund real quick, $438,000 that wasn't planned for. Like, there's no, it was spent, but there was nothing in the budget to pay for that, for the 10 years that we have that debt now. So that, like, those are those items, the truck payment that we have, there was no planning to pay for that long term. So we are stuck now with the debt that we've taken
Gotcha.
on and have no plan to repay.
And ironically, we got $30,000 worth of payments for truck or equipment this, on top of that. Which I guess we were planning on making those payments, but. you
No,
know,
those weren't, well,
Somebody was, I guess, at some point.
they weren't budgeted either. So there's no long-term, there was this is the debt, but there was no plan to pay it off.
It was.
And so we are
This is
gonna
how we
suffer.
make these payments this year and maybe
That's it.
next year, and then after that, I don't care.
Right.
Which doesn't work out well.
Okay.
And right after we had our strategic planning meeting, Scott come to me and goes, "What do you mean you don't wanna let me get a new backhoe?" I said, "Scott, the township's broke. You don't need a backhoe." So that's the kind of stuff you get. Well, did we need a new truck last year? Apparently somebody thought we did, so now we're stuck with that payment. We got them a new tractor to ride around in, we're stuck with that payment. So I agree with everybody in here. We need to gather it up and go, hey, wait a minute. We gotta quit the spending here or something.
And I think part of some of the expenses are didn't do anything,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden you got to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the truck
So-
purchase was because the truck we had was becoming a maintenance, money pit. So, well, that's the impression I was given, so.
I know what those trucks are, and it's not, there's nothing wrong with it. Now it's sitting out there in the shed because they didn't turn it, or trade it in on the new one, it's doing nothing. So, there again, we ought to look at selling some of that stuff off.
Sure, if we have
I think is in
equipment
the-
that's sitting around, I'd be.
I agree, if we have equipment that we can't justify its use,
Get it out.
I think we need
yeah.
to sell it. And, we could put that money towards our, pension obligation to get turned around or whatever. I don't care where it goes to in the general fund budget, but, to be able to have a township and have a couple $100,000 in the bank, I thought when Denise came here, I knew we had some problems. And I will tell you, I don't fault anybody. I know what the administration overhead was like, operator was like, and I know nobody could look at that old budget and make any sense out of it. It was insanity. So please don't take any of this stuff the wrong way. But we do have a problem. We're gonna take care of it. And I think if we can go back through, take a look at our equipment, see what we need, what we don't need. And I know it's great to have stuff, but if we can get a hold of Warriors Mark Township and say, if we need a road grader, their grader's no good, that's a bad example. But work a deal with Patton, well, they can buy a grader, cash outright, write the
Yeah.
check and move on. But I really, when Denise came here, I thought, well, it's time to look forward. We got this nice building here. We need to build a good office for the employees. And I even suggested maybe we look into a modular.
Yeah.
The water line's over there, the sewer line's already designed for it. everything's set up, ready to go, it just needs to get put in there and hooked up. And then I look at this and I'm like, oh my God, man, what are we
Maybe
gonna do?
not, yeah.
It ain't gonna happen. And it's certainly not gonna happen right now. I think we can work our way out of this,
Yeah.
but we're seriously gonna have to look at sacred cows. And I know I've been harping about the COG and the library and some of the other stuff, but I have to look at what our citizens need first.
Yes.
And it's nice to have expensive planning, it's nice to be a member of the COG, because we've been a founding member, but, you know, nobody over there is saying, we gotta suck it up and cut our budget and to be, you know, be helpful to these other municipalities. I don't know what the borough's like, or, you know, they got entertainment taxes, hotel taxes, or whatever it is that comes through, you know, taxes that we don't even get because of Bryce Jordan Center. They're not gonna get that now.
No. And Patty, I don't know if you have any insight from the COG budget meetings of how that process has been going, because
Yeah, it's been
COG can
going-
only cut kind of, well, I mean, they can cut, but it's what the municipalities are able to provide them as well.
Yeah,
Right.
and the Parks and Rec have been doing furloughs, and the library's been doing rolling furloughs, and they've been really looking at a lot of ways to trim, and they're looking at ways to give things back to reduce the municipality contributions. They've been looking at different options. I think they've been doing a really good job, because they understand that people are
Yeah,
gonna.
because, I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, COG can only do what comes to them.
Right, but for what I'm looking at for numbers in our budget,
Yeah.
I assume somebody from COG sent you a package of material and said, here's what it's gonna be for
Mm-hmm.
2021. And, you know, our township's a member, and some of our members anyways, myself not included, don't go to the meetings, but I don't have any control over anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I just listen to the transportation story when I'm there, but, you know, if they know that the municipalities are hurting and they gotta cut back, they will cut back. But I don't know if they know the municipalities are hurting.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
they
they
do.
do.
They're-
Yes,
I've
they do.
I'm involved with a lot of different
I mean, it
COG
hits
committees, and
everybody.
that's all
They
we talk
absolutely-
about
But do
is
we
money and
think-
how we don't have any.
I guess before we adopt our budget, do we think that the COG is gonna come back with another set of numbers and say, we've drawn our budget down and this is what we can do?
Well, again,
They've
the
already
COG
reduced-
is a
they've reduced
combination
that
of
set already
us.
once
It
because
is,
of the
yeah.
insurance
So
rebate.
the COG is only gonna do what the municipalities kind of want them to do, so they don't do anything on their own. We are the COG.
Right, but we are only 5 votes on the board.
But
And
we-
I didn't know if anybody else was looking to cut back, or if it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. we'll just-
Well, I don't know. That's where I'm asking
Yeah,
Patty from the
well,
budget meeting.
different townships are affected differently, like, basically Harris and us haven't been that directly infected by the COVID like the ones in town. So, like Harris says, well, we don't really notice much difference, and
Yeah.
so,
And that's exactly what
But
we
their
talked
earned
about as
income tax
managers.
has to be like ours. I would think.
They're what? I'm sorry.
Their earned income tax revenue
Oh,
has to be
yeah, I
like
don't know.
ours. Which,
Yeah, there's
you know,
some
they're,
people-
and they're bigger than we are, so that's what, $500,000 they're gonna miss out on?
Like Tom Fontaine's missing out on parking revenues in the borough. Like,
yeah.
they're missing out on a lot of stuff, and they're hurting because they they have that piece of retail and that
well, even the arts.
Entertainment.
Yeah,
It
we
didn't
don't-
happen this year.
Theater.
we don't have that portion. So
Right.
everybody's hurting in their own ways. The portion I offer you for the COG is exactly what Danelle said. We, as municipalities, give them the work and say, this is what you get. So that, you know.
Right, but COG has a manager like we have a manager. Our manager works hard and puts together a nice plan, and I don't know if anybody ever runs it through a filter over there.
Oh, yeah. Their executive director, Eric, the executive committee is his boss.
Right,
So he definitely runs things through the executive committee, and then it goes to general forum. So that's quite a process.
well, it's a big operation, no
Yeah,
doubt, no
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
But I just wondered if there was any pressure at the executive committee to get costs reduced in general, or if it's just, we're just out there floundering, or,
Yeah,
No,
I
we did
don't
the same thing when we went through the COG budget,
Yeah.
we tabled certain things and said, this can wait till another year, it's
Yeah.
not that important, because this year's, we have to be tighter.
okay, so those numbers that we're seeing are the numbers after the filtration by the elected officials has been done.
For
Well,
the-
you
No.
mean for the
Finance
COG?
committee.
The COG
No,
expenses?
for our expenses for the COG through the COG formula, but before it ever gets to an estimate for the township to deal with here, you know, COG Executive Committee reviews it, and, you know,
COG
people vote on
Finance.
it
The
or whatever.
finance committee, but
Finance
which
committee.
comes to the executive committee and gets approved, yes.
Right.
And then it goes to the general forum, which
But
is
I didn't know if
everybody.
all that's been done and signed and sealed at this point, or are we, you know, is there a possibility our costs are gonna come down 10 or 15,000?
Oh, I don't know, I guess something could come from the COG budget. But I think those formulas, I think, are the formulas.
Yes, and
I don't think
the-
anything
Well,
was
no, the
changing with
formula's
those.
not, I understand that's not gonna
The
change.
amounts were reduced once, from the initial one that went through, Denise should have gotten a second set of numbers that were reduced.
Because they got insurance.
Because the insurance rebate and because we also cut a few things.
Oh,
But,
nice.
but what I'm seeing is still an increase over last year for COG services.
I didn't look as closely yet. Okay. Yeah,
Well-
we can check that though.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to hassle it over
Yeah.
now, but I'm just trying to see if, you know, sometimes you start this thing and you come back and say, this didn't cost as much as we thought. I mean, because of the way the budget process is, you know, sometimes we don't know what it's gonna be in 2021 anyway, so all we have to do is our best guess. But if we're looking at 15,000 less under the COG formula for our overall obligation, then it'd be nice to have those numbers up front for us, rather
Yeah.
than.
Well, and I think part of their budgeting process is when we do our budgeting, when COG does theirs, it's supposed to be done so that it can filter to the municipalities with time for them to adjust budgets.
Right, and then the summary budget has now come again, it's been approved, so now it's gonna come to general forum and all the municipalities.
So that's
know
gonna
what
be
it is, so there's
October.
still
Yeah, but
time
if we
for
send them a
comment.
letter and say we're only gonna pay them $100,000 instead of $140,000, there's not gonna be any joy over there. And, I mean, those numbers aren't gonna work, so.
Yeah, well, we can't even do that because
We're
we're under
obligated.
contractual
We're
obligation
obligated,
to,
yeah.
you know, in the
I
case,
agree,
we don't wanna
we
get
have an
sued by the COG
obligation,
either.
but I don't think any court on the planet would hold anybody's feet to the fire on this thing for what I would consider not necessarily fully essential services. I mean, you know, we have free lunches over there at the COG and everything, but,
Not
Yeah, they cut all
anymore.
that.
well,
That's
that's
cut,
good.
yeah.
They are feeling it. so.
Well, so like we said, these are check marks that everybody kind of go and do some homework.
Right, well,
do
I wanna
some-
try to get the numbers as close to what we think the actual's gonna be,
Yeah.
because it's gonna be tough. We have 5 views on this board, and every view is not gonna be the same,
Yep.
obviously.
Yep.
So, but we're gonna have to make this work, we owe it to the citizens of this township.
Yeah.
I think we will make it work, one way or the other, we will make it work, but, you know, whatever we can do, you know, if we can save a little bit here, save a little bit
Yeah.
there. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, the supervisors don't need to go anywhere for training this year.
No, I don't need anything. Yeah,
You know, it's,
we can definitely make some
we can save some
reductions,
money
yeah.
here, there, and other places, and I just wanna be prepared to really slice into it
Yeah.
and do what we can. I just don't wanna raise people's taxes and then just, you all understand, I
Yeah,
know
we do,
that,
we do.
so.
And I do want to caution too about some of the expenses that may be new or, you know, rather than just cutting, like, oh, we might not need that, just think a little bit more, and we'll probably have more discussion about this in the next meeting, of sometimes we may need to expend in order to put us in a better position moving forward. So, you know, because I know a lot of the IT stuff is
Well,
one of
that's
the
the
priorities.
computer thing, I agreed with it,
Yes, yeah.
because our stuff's old, it's out of
Because
date.
we don't wanna, we might
But-
need to spend a little bit in order to keep us going more effectively, which again, can reduce costs later on.
the
So
long
there's
run.
definitely some
Well,
balance
just
there.
the IT stuff itself, since you brought it up, that's gotta get done. I mean, within reason, but kind of
Yeah.
regardless of cost, because it's a security issue for one.
That too.
And, you know, I mean, we're dealing with people's public information with their taxes. You know, we can't have exposure to having our township
At risk,
yeah,
yeah.
to have the computer system shut down by a hacker who says you can't have your information until you pay me $1 million, you know, which happens. So we gotta get that buttoned up.
Denise, one of the things I'd like, because what Chuck brought up, can you get a hold of Scott and have him give us a list of all the equipment that he has that we could possibly sell? I want everything on there.
So-
Even the new truck, not that we're gonna get rid of the new truck, but I need to know what we've got, and he's the expert. You know, if we can do it on 2 trucks and a whatever, then that's fine. If we got 4 trucks, 5 trucks, 2 trucks, a grader with bad wheels, I don't know what the situation
Do
is.
we have an inventory?
We
Equipment
do
inventory?
because we just did our insurance liabilities. I actually have pictures on my phone of every piece of equipment. And we have a York broom that is maybe worth $500,
So what?
maybe. That we're looking to sell. Past that, if we hired a new public works person, we would have that truck that would then be used. But there's really, I would say that the equipment that we can sell is low value, because
Well,
we've,
it is, I get that. But if you get 1,000 here and a couple thousand there and 500 here, it all helps, right?
right, but then we also have to balance, how do we do more in-house without equipment?
Well, say take the grader, for instance. Okay, it runs about a week or two every other year. Well, you say, well, we're gonna go do 3 weeks worth of work. You go rent a grader. You can rent them about $3,000 a month.
And you don't have any maintenance.
No maintenance, it shows up, you use it, you send it back. You're not putting a battery in it every year when you go run it. The tires are shot from sitting around, so there's a lot of things you can look at. You can rent something cheaper. That's like I think we hit on it before about having the backhoe to load salt and stuff. Well, a lot of times you can lease a loader for 5 months out of the year, and then when you're done with it in the spring, it goes back. It's not sitting around. I think there's a lot of little things you can look at. You go, wow, geez, that's a lot of expense. That's $10,000 for a winter. Well, you put $180,000 in a machine, a new machine, and go, well, that's going to last so long. So to me, as a business person, there's options to look at of leasing something versus owning it.
Definitely, there are definitely some options we can look at, and that's, I was looking
I
at
don't
it.
wanna pick on the road thing, but like that copy machine deal that we got, nobody's I mean, that should have been we just buy it, and you know, even if you spent $2,000 on a copy machine and it lasted 2 years and we didn't like it, you could throw it in the junk, we'd still be, you know, $3,000 ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So, we just have to be, and I don't see this out of you, Denise, at all, but we just have to be vigilant, we don't get tied into a contract on something that comes back to bite us in the tail.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've done enough of those, so.
Okay, so your homework for next time is to think about the items, the specific line items on here, nickel and dime it, right? Any, like you said, Chuck, any little bit helps here and there, so it might not seem like a big deal, but collectively, let's see what we can do. And if there's any other alternatives, obviously, we're all kind of the same mindset that if we can help it, we don't want to raise taxes. We will do as much as we can for ourselves and in our own expense cutting that we can. So if there's any other opportunities that you all could see that we can look at, that we'd be glad to hear them.
One other thing I'd like to put forward, I guess Patty's on the finance committee.
Yep.
I assume that you will relay to them that we are in dire need right now. Whatever they can do to pare back would be helpful.
Yeah, the finance committee is pretty much done budgeting at this point.
But I'm
So,
pretty
but
sure, I mean, I'm
we-
gonna assume that that's most
We-
everybody's sentiment.
Yes, I know the managers on our weekly calls have
Yeah.
had discussions directly with Eric about how much we're hurting, and it's definitely been conveyed.
Okay.
Yeah, and that can be also brought up at the next general forum, we'll be discussing
The budget.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would even almost think that the borough and College Township are probably hurting worse than we are.
I'm
Yes.
sure they are.
Yes,
Yes.
they are.
And they may not be feeling the effect directly right now.
Yeah, but they will.
But as the
and they
business
know they will.
doors shut down and employees leave.
Yep.
And the rent drops
Yep.
because there's nobody to rent, that's it. The big slam is probably gonna come next year for that.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is next time go over the other funds
Mhm.
and then go back to the general fund.
Yes. Does anybody need any other information before we end the meeting this evening?
Yes, is there a meeting tomorrow night?
No, it's not
No.
tomorrow night.
No, it's next
This
This
Thursday.
is the off week
Next
for
week.
regular
Yeah.
meetings.
Next-
Monday. The
Well-
next
Well,
Monday.
budget meeting's Monday, but the regular board meeting is next Thursday.
Monday, the budget
You have
meeting
to
is what
text me.
time?
I could text you.
6?
6, budget meetings start at 6.
Okay. We're gonna go like 6 to 8 or 8:30.
Yeah. The only one that's different is Thursday, the 22nd, we're gonna start at 6 and go to 7, so that we just get a little hour in there, and then it goes to our regular meeting.
Okay,
So this homework needs to be done for Monday,
all right.
okay?
All right.
Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'm gonna get back
Cindy,
up.
what brings you in?